Su-Bei, on a mission to unlock the secrets of advanced mental power, dives into the library with determination. Amidst the endless rows of books, he stumbles upon the only rare find-a-text on the higher-tier abilities of mental power, hidden deep within the school's vast archives. The book reveals how, unlike basic mental power that simply amplifies skills, advanced mental power takes form and can even manipulate objects directly. It also features a detection function, where users can sense when someone is observing them, as shown in an intriguing experiment. Su-Bei is excited by these discoveries, knowing these two key traits, control over physical matter and the ability to detect others' presence, are exactly what he's been searching for. Now, with this knowledge, he's one step closer to mastering the mysterious force that could change everything. He placed the book where no one would notice and walked out of the library. While washing up in the dorm, the voice of manga awareness suddenly spoke, asking what he'd been up to. Though it didn't monitor him constantly, it checked in now and then, and Su-Bei had been quietly staying away from the spotlight for 2 days. No plot meddling, no dramatic moments, just a focused look in the library. Still, Su-Bei smiled while crafting something with his hands and replied, "You'll find out tomorrow." Comforted by his confidence, manga awareness didn't push further. At 6 the next morning, before the sun even rose, Su-Bei entered the classroom alone. No breakfast, no jog, just silent determination. The room was still, his setup precise. Everything depended on this plan. And right on cue, footsteps echoed in the hall. Jiang Tianming was arriving. Su-Bei slipped his phone near the door, camera peeking just enough to confirm the target, then casually returned to his seat. The echo of footsteps drew closer, and with trained ears, Su-Bei gauged the exact moment Jiang Tianming would arrive. "Time to test the distance," he muttered, tugging a near-invisible string. A piece of chalk zipped into his palm from the podium. The steps halted. A faint smile crept across his face. Half the plan had landed. Playing the part, he raised his voice, feigned surprise, and checked the hallway. Empty. He yawned and flopped onto his desk, the perfect nap pose. Hours later, as class ended, 2 glances sharp and deliberate from Jiang and Lan confirmed it. The bait worked. Keeping up the act, Su-Bei dragged through the day, even asking the teacher silly questions, all to nudge the story where he wanted. He slipped the book into a hidden spot, carefully out of sight, before stepping out of the library. "What have you been up to lately?" The voice of manga awareness suddenly spoke, catching Su-Bei off guard as he was washing up in the dorm. Although manga awareness wasn't always active, it would occasionally check in on its chosen savior. Su-Bei had spent the last couple of days buried in the library, avoiding interaction with the main characters and steering clear of the storyline. Had it not known about his concerns over the upcoming exams, manga awareness would have thought him slacking off. Su-Bei, knowing what the voice was implying, smiled while fiddling with a small craft. "You'll see tomorrow," he responded. Reassured by his confidence, manga awareness didn't press further, trusting that Su-Bei's actions were purposeful. The following day, at the crack of dawn, Su-Bei arrived at the classroom. Typically, the academy started at 8, and he would normally wake at 7, jog, eat, and then head to class. But today, he was early, the first to arrive. The room was eerily silent, no other students in sight. This moment was crucial. Whether his plan succeeded or not hinged on it. He set everything up, then sat back and waited. Anyone observant would notice that Jiang Tianming was always first to arrive in Class F, followed by class leader Mu Tiren. No one knew if it was due to his background, but Jiang Tianming's habit of waking up early meant he always got to class first. As footsteps echoed closer, Su-Bei prepared himself, suspecting Jiang Tianming had arrived. Su-Bei was facing nearly impossible odds, with only a 3% chance of success in his task. And yet, as always, he found a way to keep his mind open to possibilities. Despite everything, he casually joked about opening a hardware store, highlighting his simplicity despite the overwhelming challenges of saving the world. To him, power, wealth, and influence held no allure. Even if he triumphed, he wouldn't obsess over the spoils. But was he truly above all desires? Of course not. He wouldn't turn down what was rightfully his. Still, he wondered if, once the battle was over, his powers gained through the manga would even remain. Assuming the worst, he figured he'd return to his original plan if they faded. After all, he had a second chance at life, and that was enough. Days passed quickly, and by the third week of the new school year, Manhwa appeared unexpectedly. His arrival during self-study sparked rumors. Then, the reason became clear. A big exam was coming, and Manhwa was about to explain the process. The students, eager for answers, buzzed with excitement, their whispers filling the room as curiosity turned to anticipation. Manhwa's forehead twitched ever so slightly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips as he picked up a piece of chalk. With that simple movement, the classroom fell into an eerie silencino. One dared test Manhwa's pinpoint accuracy with chalk. Missing out on the exam details would be a disaster, especially if a stray piece knocked them out cold. Once the tension settled, Manhwa broke the quiet, nodding with satisfaction as he announced, "The monthly exam will consist of two parts, individual battles and team battles. The first part, individual battles, was a straightforward arena. Match first one out, or declared the loser by the referee, was out. The winner moved on. These would stretch over 3 to 4 days. If you lost early, you could rest before the team battles began." The mention of individual battles had Su Bei suppressing a frown. His skills weren't ideal for one-on-one matches, but against the weaker students of Class C or D, he could hold his own. However, facing someone from Class A could risk exposing his secret. As his mind raced, a classmate raised their hand, voicing the shared concern. "Teacher, are the battles randomly matched? If we face a Class A student, should we just surrender?" Manhwa shook his head and answered, "The school has already considered this possibility. The competition is heating up. For the first 2 days, each class faces opponents no more than 2 levels above them, meaning Class C is the highest you'll encounter. No sweat for those who know their way around. But brace yourself for day 3, when the floodgates open wide and anything goes." Su Bei breathes a sigh of relief. Class C is tough, sure, but he's not worried about facing students who aren't experts in their abilities. Then, the second competition is revealed. The team battle, a 3 to 6 member squad. But here's the twist. At least one student from Class A has to team up with one from Class F. No sneaky two. Class A combos rules are rules. This leaves everyone laughing as they realize the academy already thought ahead. The final score? The total team score divided by the number of members. No big team advantage, as the average score will determine everything. But one student questions this, pointing out that more members equals an advantage. Manhwa isn't having it. "Speaking out of turn, to the back," he orders. With a sneer, he explains that more members might bring a few weak links, dragging down the team's overall score. Quality over quantity after all. Manhwa's forehead twitched ever so slightly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips as he picked up a piece of chalk. With that simple movement, the classroom fell into an eerie silencino. One dared test Manhwa's pinpoint accuracy with chalk. Missing out on the exam details would be a disaster, especially if a stray piece knocked them out cold. Once the tension settled, Manhwa broke the quiet, nodding with satisfaction as he announced, "The monthly exam will consist of 2 parts, individual battles and team battles. The first part, individual battles, was a straightforward arena match first one out, or declared the loser by the referee, was out. The winner moved on. These would stretch over 3 to 4 days. If you lost early, you could rest before the team battles began." The mention of individual battles had Su Bei suppressing a frown. His skills weren't ideal for one-on-one matches, but against the weaker students of Class C or D, he could hold his own. However, facing someone from Class A could risk exposing his secret. As his mind raced, a classmate raised their hand, voicing the shared concern. "Teacher, are the battles randomly matched? If we face a Class A student, should we just surrender?" Manhwa shook his head and answered, "The school has already considered this possibility." Su Bei gave a calm nod, but secretly questioned the system if he hadn't joined. Who would have taken the 6th slot? He didn't want to rob another character of their chance to exist. Maybe joining the protagonist group wasn't so bad. He could always switch later, maybe even to a villain's team. But then came the twist. Manga Awareness responded that the team size had actually changed because of him. What was once a 3 to 5 limit had quietly shifted to 3 to 6. So he hadn't stolen anyone's spot. He'd rewritten the rules without realizing that hit differently. Relaxed, Su Bei returned to his dorm, opened the app, and scanned the earlier chapters. piecing together the shifting gears of the story once more. Su Bei leaned back with a smirk in his violet eyes, watching Jiang Tianming head to class and muttering, "Looks like I made the right bet." His interface confirmed it. Congratulations. While the readers went wild, the scene cut to Jiang Tianming freezing at the classroom door as a piece of chalk flew across the room, followed by Su Bei's cool voice, still tricky even at advanced level. The manga exposed Jiang's thoughts. That voice? Su Bei? When Su Bei suddenly asked, "Who's there?" Jiang slipped into hiding, sneaking in later like nothing happened. Comments exploded with theories show, did Su Bei sense him? What does advanced mean? And is this a hidden skill? The tension only deepened when Jiang whispered everything to Lan Subing, and together, they began quietly watching Su Bei from the shadows. Su Bei had a rough day, feeling strangely drowsy. Lan Subing noticed him asking the teacher about mental power, and soon the two of them, along with Wu Mingbai, headed to the library. There, they discovered a book on advanced mental power, which revealed key abilities like remote manipulation and heightened senses. Jiang Tianming quickly confirmed their suspicions. Su Bei had become an advanced mental power user. Afterward, Su Bei checked the online forum, where fans were already buzzing about his new abilities. Excited, he snapped his fingers and asked Manga Awareness about the next update. The response came, the manga would update during the individual battles. Although it wasn't as soon as he hoped, Su Bei was confident he'd make an impact in the upcoming days, especially after seeing posts about the team battle. Time to prepare for what's next. The team battle is on. With powers like the Death Summon, Word Spirit, Wu Mingbai's Earth Element, and Mo Xiaotian's Air Block, it's clear this group is ready to surprise their enemies. And don't forget Su Bei's mysterious mental power. This team's battle plan is locked in tight. But there's more brewing under the surface. The monthly exam might just be the key to uncovering some hidden truths about Mu Tirang. His physical enhancement ability doesn't seem to align perfectly with the others, but no hate, he's still a vital piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, the characters keep us guessing. Who exactly are Su Bei and Mo Xiaoxian beyond their abilities? Stay tuned, because we're about to learn a lot more than just who wins this battle. Su Bei's next move is, crucial classmates from Class A are set to face off against Jiang Tianming and his crew. But there's a twist. They'll need backup from Class F, and that's where Feng Lan comes in. Betting on her being part of the team feels almost too obvious, right? It's the perfect setup. But who else will join them? The matchups start to fall into place. Jiang Tianming versus Si Zhaohua, Lan Subing facing off with Ai Baozhu, Wu Mingbai squaring up against Zhou Kaishuan, and of course, Su Bei against Feng Lan. Who will the others face? With tensions rising and alliances shifting, things are bound to get wild. Just reading about it makes the anticipation unbearable. In the chaotic world of shifting destinies and reality-bending powers, Su Bei is forced to confront a system set to erase him from existence. Bound by rules and surrounded by classmates from two different factions, he finds himself pitted against a rubber-bodied opponent whose elasticity could be his greatest challenge yet. Meanwhile, alliances form and fracture as Su Bei uncovers deeper truths about the Academy, the narrative that controls them, and a mysterious force that wants to rewrite it all. As his battle against fate intensifies, the lines between protagonist and antagonist blur, pushing Su Bei to rewrite the story and defy the destiny the world has scripted for him. Each move becomes a high-stakes gamble where one wrong step could lead to erasure, but if Su Bei plays his cards right, he might just rewrite the ending to his favor. Will he survive the ultimate loop, or will the narrative crush him under the weight of its unyielding plot? Only time, and a few gears, will tell. Su Bei really shouldn't have overestimated his chances. Out of 200 students, he managed to face one of the toughest opponents in the first round, proving that his luck could hardly get worse. His opponent's abilities were a nightmare for Su Bei, a combat-focused fighter. A body made of rubber wasn't just hard to hurt it, made his usual moves like shoulder throws nearly impossible to pull off. Su Bei didn't flinch though. He bet everything on himself. What choice did he have? No one would notice their match, and no one would bet on him. But if he won, he could at least take his opponent's points. Even as he placed his bet, he wondered if his terrible luck was tied to his cannon fodder status. Manga Awareness sighed, explaining that his bad luck had started the moment he died and was slowly returning to normal, a process that would take months. In the meantime, Su Bei would likely face even tougher opponents soon. But for now, he focused on one thing: how to beat the Rubber Man. As he drifted off to sleep, the competition was about to begin. With 10 arenas set up for simultaneous battle. The arena was set, 20x, 20 meters, with 2 referees keeping an eye on things from the main stage, overseeing 5 arenas each. It was almost time for Su Bei to step up in the 3rd round. Jiang Tianming and the others cheered him on from the sidelines, though Su Bei didn't really need it. Standing on the arena, his opponent, a green-haired boy, began twisting his body into bizarre shapes, flexing his ability. He boasted loudly, "You're from Class F, right? Surrender now. You'll get a 4-day break and we both save time." Su Bei raised an eyebrow, his eyes flashing with realization. The boy's ability should have placed him in Class B, but here he was in Class C. Su Bei pretended to be impressed. "Is that your ability? That's amazing. You can change into so many shapes." The boy smirked, flaunting his skill even more. "Of course! After this exam, I'll probably move up to Class B. You're just unlucky to face me. Surrender now before you get hurt." Su Bei shook his head, pretending to be troubled. Su Bei spoke gently, claiming he didn't want to fight, blaming his weak ability and a strict teacher for not surrendering outright. The green-haired boy, reassured by Su Bei's calm tone and unimpressive class label, let his guard down, confident a Class F student posed no threat. When Su Bei suggested a plan, just demonstrate a powerful move so he could surrender, with dignity it sounded fair. The boy eagerly complied, transforming his body into a snake-like coil, boasting about his suffocating grip. But after retracting his power and forcing a pale grin, Su Bei stepped forward with a smile and offered a handshake. And yet, the green-haired boy wasn't foolish enough to think that was the end. "I really don't want to fight either. My ability, well, being placed in Class F shows it's not very useful. But our class teacher is extremely strict. If I surrender outright, I'll definitely be punished after the exam." The green-haired boy hadn't been to Class F himself, but he'd heard stories of their fierce teacher, someone who could probably break a student just by glaring at them. So when Su Bei mentioned surrendering, the green-haired boy's confidence shot up. He'd always thought a Class F student wouldn't be much of a challenge anyway. "So what do you want to do? Just pretend to fight?" he asked, his voice relaxed. "No need for anything too complicated," Su Bei replied, a sly smile forming. "Just show me some powerful moves. If my teacher sees how strong you are, he won't mind me surrendering." The green-haired boy liked the sound of that. He quickly demonstrated his constricting ability, his body twisting and coiling like a massive snake. "See this? I can wrap around someone and squeeze until they can't breathe." After a dramatic display, he released the ability and forced a grin. "Now you can surrender, right?" Su Bei nodded, still smiling as he approached. "Let's shake hands and end this peacefully." But the green-haired boy wasn't as naive as he seemed. The green-haired boy's face turned ghostly pale from overexerting his powers, yet his cheeks burned with anger as he pointed at Su Bei, shouting, "You cheated!" Without a care, Su Bei strolled down the steps from the arena, tossing a casual wink as he said, "All's fair in war. Thanks for the victory and the points." In that moment, the green-haired boy recalled the 20 points he had staked on himself, the 15 earned over 3 weeks of classes and 5 from assisting the teacher. His eyes widened in horror, and he fell to his knees, letting out a dramatic cry, "My points!" His anguished gaze met the sky as he vowed, "I'll never forgive you." Su Bei, unfazed, merely stared at him, thoroughly exhausted by the bizarre world he was trapped in. But the rest of the crowd was indifferent to the scene. Mo Xiaotian rushed to Su Bei, beaming, "You were amazing. You didn't even break a sweat against someone from Class C." Jiang Tianming, still stunned by the green-haired boy's loss, sauntered over with a sly smirk. "That was ruthless. What if he just stayed there, not getting up?" Su Bei, casting one last glance at the boy, grinned and said, "If you lose today, you get a 4-day break. Isn't that great?" The green-haired boy froze, realizing the words sounded eerily familiar. They were the very words he had said to Su Bei before the match began. The tension escalates as Su Bei faces an enraged adversary, his fury bubbling over as his face turns crimson. He stands up, finger pointed, but words fail him, leaving only sputtering frustration. Su Bei, unfazed, glances at Jiang Tianming, raising an eyebrow with a mischievous smile. "See? He actually got up. The crowd erupts into laughter, with Wu Mingbai clutching his sides, utterly amused. Remarking how he's learned a new trick though, whether it's a combat move or a way to irk people is anyone's guess. Lan Subing, always composed, gives Su Bei a thumbs up, and though she remains silent, Su Bei swears he hears her inner voice cheering him on. Meanwhile, their class leader, Mu Tiran, slaps Su Bei on the back with an approving smile, offering to spar sometime. Su Bei eagerly agrees, recognizing Mu Tiran as a strong potential training partner. After the others scatter, Feng Lan quietly approaches, asking if Su Bei had been conserving his strength. Su Bei pauses, remembering his previous comment about saving energy during their first run together. He realizes the tricky situation he's in and, uncertain about how things will unfold, decides to stick to his usual evasive tactics, knowing that if things go wrong, he might just be written out of the story altogether. Su Bei gave a mysterious look and said, "Guess." Not long after, it was Feng Lan's turn to compete. If things went as planned, the main characters' matches would be later, and as the matches got fewer, the bets would soar. Feng Lan's opponent was a Class D student known for his ability Sharp Tongue, which allowed him to make his tongue as hard as steel. It wasn't lethal, but it was gross. As long as Feng Lan kept his distance from the guy's head, it would be fine. Otherwise, it was no surprise he ended up in Class D. On the surface, Feng Lan didn't seem to have much of an offensive ability either. His physical fitness was top-notch, but Su Bei, who ran with him every morning, knew he had never trained in actual combat techniques. His family valued abilities over regular methods and only pushed him to build mental strength, not learn self-defense. That left him and his opponent evenly matched. However, Su Bei knew there was more to this than met the eye. If Feng Lan was truly on par with a Class D Esper, what kind of legend would he be? Su Bei was intrigued, just as Feng Lan was about what tricks Su Bei had up his sleeve. It wasn't just them who were curious. The main group arrived, followed by Si Zhaohua and his team. They exchanged disdainful glances but kept quiet, avoiding a scene for others to enjoy. Surprisingly, Zhao Xiaoyu and Wu Jin also appeared. As the moment of confrontation arrived, the boy from Class D, fueled by anger, aimed a punch at Feng Lan. But with a swift tilt of his head and a quick step back, Feng Lan dodged both his strike and an attempted trip, leaving the Class D boy to fall flat on his face. Realizing the massive gap in their abilities after missing not one but two attacks, the boy hesitated, then conceded, saying, "You're too strong, I surrender. Let's both step down together." Feng Lan nodded calmly, and the two made their way toward the stairs. But as they reached the stairs, the boy tried to sneak a sinister push on Feng Lan's back. Baozu, watching from below, gasped. But the isolation of the arena prevented her from warning Feng Lan. Just as the boy thought victory was his, Feng Lan sidestepped, letting his opponent tumble down uncontrollably. As Feng Lan descended the steps, the referee declared, "Feng Lan wins." Below, Su Bei, observing Feng Lan, realized her power, wondering how she could dodge attacks with such precision. It became clear Feng Lan had the gift of prophecy, allowing her to foresee movements seconds before they happened, all while remaining unfazed and seemingly untired. Just when the punch was about to land, Feng Lan, with a slight tilt of his head and a quick step back, dodged effortlessly, leaving the Class D boy crashing to the floor. Realizing the strength difference, the boy hesitated, surrendering, and suggesting they both leave. Feng Lan calmly nodded, walking toward the stairs, but as they neared, the boy pushed him from behind, hoping for a cheap shot. The audience gasped, thinking Feng Lan would fall, but with a swift sidestep, he avoided the push, leaving the boy tumbling down the steps. As Feng Lan descended, the referee declared, "Feng Lan wins." Meanwhile, Su Bei, observing carefully, understood that Feng Lan's ability to dodge every attack was no accidente, was using a prophetic power, allowing him to foresee movements just moments before they happened. And with his effortless performance, it was clear this ability didn't drain his mental energy. It was a brutal display of strength raw, sharp but lacking finesse. Su Bei watched Feng Lan get surrounded and shook his head. "What a waste of potential," he muttered, tapping out a quick message to Dong Xinan. "You need real combat training." Just as he hit send, he turned toward Jiang Tianming. "So, who's up next? The class monitor?" Mu Tiran stood, cracking his knuckles. 20th round, my turn. And sure enough, it was. No flair, no speeches, just power. He stomped into the arena, grabbed his stunned opponent from Class F, and tossed him off the stage like a rag doll. Done in seconds. Lan Subing blinked, half dazed. Is that what raw power looks like? Her fingers touched her arm as if she was thinking of picking up a sword tomorrow. Jiang and Wu jumped like startled cats, each grabbing one arm. "You're a mage!" Jiang stammered. "Please don't try to body slam anyone." Wu nodded furiously. "We love your ambition. Just maybe don't go full Tyrann on us, okay?" Hey! Mutirin chuckled, pretending to scold, but the mood shifted fast as Subei's gaze locked onto Wu Jin, now stepping into the ring. His opponent looked like he'd already seen his fate and lost. Subei's steps echoed loud on purpose, drawing attention like a slow zoom-in panel. Behind him, Jiang Tianming and the crew followed instinctively, confusion painted across their faces. Wu Mingbai asked, "You know him?" Subei just smirked, pointed, and said, "Same squad as Feng Lan." Also, not your biggest fan. Wu Jin, with that long violet hair and nerd glasses combo, somehow managed to stay invisible all semester. Jiang blinked. "He's in our class?" Mo Xiaotian raised a hand half-heartedly. "Never talk to him." Even Lan Subing whispered, "He's quieter than me." A silent character stepping into the spotlight just as the story starts cracking. In the midst of the intense battle, Wu Jin's relentless struggle in the ring is met with little hope as he faces an inevitable loss. Bruised and battered, his determination barely holds as his opponent overwhelms him. Meanwhile, Wu Mingbai watches in disbelief, questioning the excitement in what seems like a one-sided match. His friends agree, knowing the abilities of both fighters. One has a power that nullifies all noise, while the other possesses double strengthening abilities. The outcome appears set in stone. But then, Subei, ever the unpredictable one, snaps his fingers and presents a challenge to fate itself. He bets all his points on Wu Jin, the underdog. His boldness catches everyone off guard, 400 points. A huge gamble. But as the confusion settles, a question lingers. Where did Subei even get that many points? This unexpected turn of events promises to rewrite the odds, and everyone is left wondering if Wu Jin can defy fate itself. In a room full of stunned faces, the number 400 sent shockwaves. Jiang Tianming, ever sharp, guessed it instantly. Subei won by betting. But Subei's smile offered no confirmation, just mystery. Everyone was in awe, but Mutirin remained uneasy. He warned Subei that Wu Jin had no shot at winning. Why risk it all? Yet Subei didn't flinch. Holding a strange gear, he spun it casually in his hand, violet eyes gleaming. His voice calm, but words absolute. "Since I've placed my bet, then whether he wants to or not, he has to win." The group froze. Could Subei truly alter outcomes? Jiang Tianming believed he could. With just a few hundred points, most would be satisfied. But where did the 400 come from? The group was stunned. Jiang Tianming, always sharp, quickly deduced the answer. "You're betting, aren't you?" Subei simply smiled, offering no response. His silence only deepened their amazement as they realized he had accumulated all that in a single day. But one person, Mutirin, couldn't shake the worry. "How did you guess before, and in this match, Wu Jin has almost no chance of winning? Are you really not afraid of losing it all?" The others couldn't help but agree. Subei's boldness felt reckless now, putting himself in the spotlight. But Subei's smile remained, confident and relaxed. His hand spun a strange gear, its pattern unfamiliar to them. With a steady voice, he declared, "Once I place a bet, the outcome is sealed. Whether he wants it or not, he will win." His words hung in the air, leaving the others in confusion and awe. Could he really control the match? Jiang Tianming was the only one who seemed to think so. The blue-haired boy, thinking victory was in his grasp, swaggered off the ring, expecting the referee to declare him the winner. But as the crowd remained strangely silent, his confusion grew. They weren't looking at him, but rather at someone else, a striking blonde boy. Unwilling to share the spotlight, the blue-haired boy tried to step forward, only to hear footsteps coming from behind. Turning around, he froze. The very person he thought he'd knocked out, Wu Jin, was calmly stepping down from the ring. Shocked, the blue-haired boy demanded an explanation. Before Wu Jin could respond, the referee stepped forward and declared, "Wu Jin wins." Furious and disbelieving, the blue-haired boy grabbed Woojin by the collar, his face flushed with anger. "What's your ability?" he snarled, still struggling to understand how he'd been outplayed. "How did you vanish just now?" Most students didn't realize they could uncover others' abilities by just glancing at the campus walls. Quick thinkers like Subi were rare gems. If the blue-haired boy had known, he wouldn't have been so shocked. The referee swiftly intervened, pulling him away with a warning: no attacking outside the ring. Do it again, and it won't just be a warning. In this academy, breaking the rules could get you everything from point deductions to expulsion. After being warned, the blue-haired boy simmered down but still couldn't understand his defeat. His face darkened as he stared at Woojin, demanding an explanation. Woojin's victory didn't seem to lift his spirits. He remained just as gloomy, replying with a flat tone, "It's called no presence." He didn't reveal the drawback: that staying silent was the only way to become undetectable. Although it wasn't a fatal weakness, it was better kept secret in case he faced someone who could counter it. The blue-haired boy finally realized what had happened. Woojin hadn't fallen out of the ring like he thought. He had erased his presence. The boy had foolishly walked off the ring, assuming the win, only to lose. He had sensed something was off but didn't push further. Annoyed, he huffed like a bull, took a moment to calm himself, and shot one last glare at his opponent before storming off. Woojin, victorious but silent, glanced at Jiang Tianming and the others, aware they had been watching his match, but said nothing. He simply walked away. Jiang Tianming and the others were too stunned by Su Bei's surprising actions to engage. As the group reflected in silence, Jiang Tianming sighed and turned to Subi, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "Did his win have anything to do with you?" he asked. It was clear that Woojin's victory had been influenced by Su Bei's clever strategy, but Jiang Tianming couldn't shake the feeling that Subi had orchestrated more behind the scenes, especially after the mysterious gear had appeared. His suspicion grew, as the gear's disappearance seemed to imply it played a crucial role. But Subi, with a shrug, claimed innocence. Nope. Yet, no one believed him. The recent events left no room for doubt that Subi was involved somehow. Mo Xiaotian, usually the most inquisitive, simply stared at Subi, choosing not to press further. Meanwhile, Manga Awareness, anxiously, wondered if Subi had risked everything with his bold claim. Did he really think Woojin would win, or had he made a huge mistake? If Woojin lost, Su Bei's confidence would become a joke. In the midst of uncertainty, Subi stood unfazed, even as the weight of surprise and curiosity hung in the air. His calm exterior masked the relief that surged inside he had won the bet. With a subtle smile, he responded to Manga Awareness. "Isn't a 99% probability worth betting on?" His words held truth when the odds were nearly certain. Risking it all was almost an obligation. Manga Awareness, though intrigued, couldn't help but wonder, where did you get that 99%? After all, until now, Su Bei's understanding of Woojin was based mostly on speculation. Su Bei's explanation revealed the depth of his reasoning. Woojin's inclusion in Si Zhaohua's team had catapulted the probability to near certainty. The team, designed to contrast with the protagonists, had to win, setting Woojin up for a victorious match. With a 95% chance of success, the pieces were falling perfectly into place, and the analysis made all the sense in the world. Manga Awareness narrowed its eyes, feeling the weight of the bet, but still pushed forward. "What about the final 4%? Didn't you say 99%? Subi smirked, hands buried in his pockets, eyes gleaming like someone watching the plot unravel just right. He kept talking from the moment he entered. His ability is silence, so why speak unless he's holding back waiting? That means he wants to win. And just like that, the last pieces clicked. Woojin wasn't meant to lose. With that burning intent and a plot that needed him, failure was almost impossible. Almost. Subi still left room for that cursed 1%, the unpredictable chaos of the author's pen. In a world ruled by panels and rewrites, even certainty had a glitch. Manga Awareness, stunned, finally understood the power hidden in that missing percent. If anyone could rewrite fate, it had to be Subi. Once alone, Subi let the mask drop for a heartbeat. Even knowing the plot, nerves still bit deep when the stakes were inked in deletion. But he'd done it. He hadn't ignored the fragile clue Woojin might be important. At the time, that info felt like static barely useful. But in a manga where details rewrite lives, even the faintest line could become the key. And that key had just turned. Subi Ei was in a tight spot, trying to figure out how to handle things with Wu Jin. But it wasn't until he saw Wu Jin step into the ring that a brilliant idea struck him. After a moment of thinking, Subi Ei took a risky yet rewarding decision. The plan had high chances of success, and the rewards were worth the gamble. Once he pulled it off, he already had his sights set on how to steer the public opinion on the forum. Up next, the matches were set. Mo Xiaotian, Wu Mingbai, Lan Suibing, and Jiang Tianming were all going to face off. Mo Xiaotian, a Class A member, was up against a Class B opponent. With just a few transparent blocks, he easily shut down his opponent's fiery attacks, making the enemy retreat in frustration until they fell off the ring. After Mo Xiaotian's victory, the group went for lunch, knowing the second half of the matches would kick off at 2 p.m. During the break, Jiang Tianming asked the burning question everyone had. What exactly is your ability, Xiaoshan? Mo Xiaotian, not one to hide things, answered honestly, it's air. But right now, I can only solidify small portions of it. The group couldn't help but be amazed. Air. What a terrifying power-controlling air means controlling life itself. The sheer dominance of such an ability sends a chill through the group. Even Wu Mingbai, usually all jokes, goes quiet, eyes wide as he murmurs in awe. If air is only ranked Class A, then what kind of monsters sit in Class S? Doubt creeps in as Jiang Tianming questions whether Class S even exists. But it's Mu Tiren, the always composed class president, who shuts that down with quiet certainty. He's seen the signs, read between the lines, and he knows the truth. The silence that follows confirms what everyone fears. Class S isn't a rumor. It's real, and it's coming. Subei's thoughts spiraled around the mysterious class. She already knew from the manga that Meng Wai, their current Class F teacher, had once mentored some of those elite students, so there was no doubt Class S was real. But then came Wu Mingbai's question. If someone with the powerful air ability only landed in Class A, what kind of monsters must be in Class S? The room tensed. Jiang Tianming turned to Su Bei, awkwardly fumbling over his name Su, realizing Su Bei felt too distant, too formal. He remembered how Mo Xiaotian called him Bega, which carried a brotherly warmth, though saying it himself felt cringe. Still, brushing past the awkwardness, Jiang asked, Subi, do you know about Class S? Subi was blank, but he couldn't let that show. Admitting ignorance would kill his mystique and waste the golden chance to shape Class S through the manga's unwritten pages. So he faked it. Cool as ice, he nodded. Yes, I know. At that moment, everyone's eyes lit up. The room charged with curiosity and unspoken awe. Everyone expected Subi Ei to know about class. She always seemed like the guy with all the answers. He even knows this? Mo Xiaotian exclaimed, eyes wide with admiration. But truth be told, Subi Ei had no clue about Class S's real strength. Still, he couldn't admit that, not in front of the readers. In a world ruled by narrative illusion, the readers believed whatever he said. So instead of downplaying, he exaggerated better to inflate the power of Class S than risk collapsing the human side of the story. But then, a wild thought hit him. If the manga could weaken humans, couldn't it weaken Nightmare Beasts too? His heart raced at the possibility. Maybe the crisis wasn't irreversible after all. But now wasn't the time to drift. He focused, smirked, and whispered mysteriously, "Why are you in such a hurry?" Even though he had no clue, Subei's statement still held weight. Class S wasn't always stronger than Class A. After all, he, from Class F, had once defeated green hair from Class C. With the right tactics, even a rabbit could take down a tiger. It seemed like he'd spilled some hidden info, but it also felt like he said nothing at all. Regardless, the protagonist group didn't catch on and took his words to mean that Class S was unique, not necessarily stronger, but special in its own way. After lunch, everyone headed back to their dorms. As soon as Su Bei entered his room, he immediately began grilling Manga Awareness. Though he'd calmed down a bit, he still held on to a sliver of hope. Unfortunately, Manga Awareness gave him a straightforward no. You can't change the world's basic framework, and the Nightmare Beast's strength is part of that. Basic setting? Su Bei raised an eyebrow. What's this basic setting exactly? Manga Awareness couldn't spill the beans, though. Being a character in the manga, Su Bei couldn't know everything, so he was left to figure it out himself. With a sigh, Subi-ei realized that the nightmare beasts were probably linked to the basic setting. Maybe after the exam, he'd dive deeper into it. But for now, he'd focus on the present. Subi-ei stood still, his gaze fixed on the arena as Wu Mingbai prepared for his turn. A student from Class D, Wu Mingbai's Earth element ability was clearly powerful, but potential alone wasn't enough. The path ahead could lead to greatness or failure, with many succumbing to mundane lives if their mental strength faltered. Elements like Earth and Wood were less aggressive, often relegated to lower classes, while the more combative elements like Fire found themselves higher up. But for now, Wu Mingbai's future remained uncertain. After a quick rest, Subi-ei checked the clock time for Wu Mingbai's match. As he arrived at the sports field, the crowd had already gathered, and soon enough, the competition began. Wu Mingbai's opponent was a Mysterian upper-class student from Class B, whose abilities were unknown to Subi-ei. He hadn't invested in intel for Classes A or B. The information from Classes C and D was enough for now, though he knew that the higher-tier students often experience rapid changes in ability. The mystery of their abilities was something he'd have to figure out through observation. In the arena, Wu Mingbai, known for his fire element ability, finds himself in a tense standoff. His opponent, a purple-haired girl, is no pushover. Unlike the introduction and enrollment suggested. She's not just throwing flames, but enveloping herself in fire and hurling fireballs with deadly precision. Wu Mingbai, unsure of her true strength, takes a cautious approach, hopping around the edge of the ring like he's enjoying a carefree stroll, but making no aggressive moves. The girl, equally cautious, sizes him up but remains hesitant, disdainful of his playful demeanor yet unwilling to attack hastily. The crowd grows restless, murmuring in frustration at the lack of action. One boy, eager for his bet to pay off, voices his impatience, but is quickly silenced by a sharp remark from Lan Su-bing, who, with a quick flick of her phone, shoots him down. The boy, feeling a bit embarrassed but undeterred, explains that the match's stakes were too high for him to ignore. He had money on the line, and the clash of two vastly different classes had the potential for a big win. The suspense hangs in the air, as both combatants seem locked in a mental battle as much as a physical one. The purple-haired girl, with her strength from Class B, wasn't going to hold back against the clumsy brown-haired guy. Confident in her power, she summoned a brush, its simple yet elegant design emitting a rustic charm. With a flick of her wrist, she wrote the word sword in the air, and in a moment, the ink twisted into a sharp, long blade. But the girl's face paled, exhausted from the strain on her mental energy. Still, a smug expression crossed her face. This was her ability. Magic brush Ma Liang, where anything she wrote would materialize. She had chosen the sword for its offensive power, hoping it would guarantee her victory. As the weapon took form, she felt invincible. But just as she was about to strike, the ground shifted. A massive pillar of earth shot up from below, colliding with her sword before she could react. The purple-haired girl couldn't take it anymore watching the brown-haired guy flail around like a clueless extra lit a fire in her. With a flick of her wrist, an ancient-looking brush appeared, its tip dripping with dark ink. She slashed the air and scrawled the word sword, and the ink trembled, twisting into a gleaming blade. Her face went pale from the strain, but pride danced in her eyes. This was her power. Magic brush Ma Liang, whatever she wrote became real, forged from her own mind. Her energy was weak, so she stuck to weapons, and sword was simple and deadly. A perfect choice. In her head, it was already over. Weapon versus no weapon, easy win. But just as the sword solidified and began to drop, boom! The ground erupted. A jagged pillar of earth shot up, slamming into the sword before it even touched down. Her victory vanished in an instant. The sword, meant to fall directly down, was deflected by an impact and shot straight toward Wu Mingbai. Without hesitation, Wu Mingbai seized the moment, leaping up to grasp the sword firmly in his hand. He looked at it with a grin, giving it a playful weight, and said, "What a fine sword! Keep your praise to yourself." The purple-haired girl snapped, furious. "Give me back my sword!" The sword was the product of nearly all her mental energy, and losing it meant certain defeat. She couldn't afford to let someone else take it so easily, especially since her ability to create another one was doubtful. Wu Mingbai wasn't about to return it, though. He smiled, nodding. "I'll give it back after I leave the ring." "Who'd want it then?" she retorted, growing even angrier. Deep down, she knew she'd likely lose it for good. She couldn't let her creation slip away just like that. Wu Mingbai, ignoring her protests, simply walked toward her, holding the sword with ease, and asked, "So, will you step out voluntarily, or let the referee declare your loss?" The latter option meant more than just losing. It meant facing a fatal blow. He shook his head with regret and muttered, "Sorry. Even if I lose tomorrow, I want it to be my own loss." With those words and that fiery look, he looked like a classic manga protagonist. But for those who truly understood him, it was clear he was mocking her, hinting that even if she won today, she'd lose tomorrow. The result was already clear, and everyone turned away. But the boy who had bet on the girl with purple hair kept staring at the ring, clinging to a glimmer of hope. Sadly, his hopes were crushed in front of Wu Mingbai. When the referee declared Wu Mingbai the winner, the light in the boy's eyes faded. "No, this can't be real!" he cried dramatically, collapsing to his knees, clutching his head. "My 50 points!" The purple-haired girl, despondent, walked over. Seeing someone else mourn for her, she joined him in crying, "Boo-hoo! I lost in the first round! I'm so miserable!" Subi couldn't hide his exasperation. Once again, he felt fed up with this manga world. Puzzled by the awkwardness of it all, he asked his manga awareness in his mind, "Why do I feel so embarrassed? Aren't I part of this world too? Why does it all seem so ridiculous?" He shook his head with a sigh and said, "Sorry, even if I lose tomorrow, I want it to be my loss alone." With those words in his demeanor, he truly embodied the fiery spirit of a manga hero. But for those who knew him better, it was clear he was mocking her, suggesting that no matter the outcome today, she'd lose tomorrow. The result was already sealed, and everyone looked away. Except for the boy who'd placed his bet on the purple-haired girl, still staring at the ring, clinging to the hope of a miracle. His hopes were dashed the moment Wu Mingbai was declared the victor. The boy's eyes lost their light as he fell to his knees. "No, this can't be real," he cried out dramatically, clutching his head. "My hard-earned 50 points." The purple-haired girl, disheartened, walked over. Seeing someone share her misery, she joined him in weeping. "Boo-hoo! I lost in the first round. I'm so miserable." Subi, completely frustrated, couldn't help but wonder, why did he feel so embarrassed by all this? Wasn't he a part of this manga world too? Why did it all seem so ridiculous to him now? "Because you've seen the real world," the voice of manga awareness said calmly. "That's what pulls you away from the world of manga." Subei's sigh caught everyone's attention, like a red flag. Jiang Tianming, startled like a cat, spun around, eyes wide with concern. Why the sigh? The group looked at Subi, confusion written all over their faces. Subi paused, thinking quickly, and then shrugged it off. "You all took some of my points this time, so my earnings were way less than before." Everyone exhaled in relief. Mo Xiaotian, always upbeat, grinned. "I'm betting with you next time, brother Bei." Wu Mingbai's eyes sparkled with interest, recalling Subei's uncanny luck during Wu Jin's match. He nodded eagerly, joining Mo Xiaotian. "We're counting on you for some big wins, brother Bei Tilda." Subei's smile was forced as he replied, "You can follow my bets, but remember, you won't know the exact odds for each person." Mo Xiaotian was clueless. "What do you mean?" The smarter ones quickly caught on. Subi could intentionally bet on someone likely to lose, and if the others followed, they'd be left holding the bag. Before anyone could react, Mo Xiaotian slung an arm around Subei's shoulder and laughed. "Who cares? I'm with you, no matter what." Subi shot him a knowing, amused glance. "Do as you like." The group exchanged smiles, silently agreeing to ignore Subei's warning. After all, a chance to earn points was too good to pass up. In the arena, Subei's eyes briefly flickered as Zhao Xiaoyu stepped into the ring, facing off against the classmate. The match was hardly exciting, with no one betting on it, though both competitors had placed their own wagers. Class F offered little to gain, with only the class monitor earning a few extra points. The rest of them only had 15 points each, a meager sum, but even a small profit still counted. Subi glanced at his companions, but the potential points for everyone involved were so small that it wasn't worth the hassle. With plenty of points already, there was no need to bother. When Jiang Tianming noticed his glance and asked if he was considering betting, Subi shook his head, muttering there was no profit to be made. Yet, when asked who would win, he saw an opportunity to build his image, answering decisively, Zhao Xiaoyu. It was a moment for self-promotion, after all. Subi calmly predicted Zhao Xiaoyu would use her ability, even when everyone else dismissed it as useless. Laughter speech? Make the bed? Class F's finest indeed. But Subei's mysterious certainty left everyone stunned. Lan Subing broke her silence with a sarcastic jab, Jiang Tianming questioned his judgment, and even manga awareness couldn't explain it. How could Su Bei be so sure she'd win using that? His answer was simple. Instinct. Confidence. A refusal to believe any ability was meaningless. As the stage lit up and the bet hung in the air, one thing was certain: Su Bei never speaks without reason, even when the script hasn't caught up yet. Zhao Xiaoyu had a clear goal: to become a powerful ability user. She kept her powers hidden, paid close attention in class, and tackled every exam with seriousness. In a world where only offensive abilities guarantee survival against the nightmares, mastering one's power was a matter of life and death. Even the detective ability was useful in battle, allowing its user to exploit an enemy's weakness. Zhao Xiaoyu's ambition meant she would not shy away from using her ability, especially during this month's exama, perfect stage to demonstrate her ability's potential. Su Bei, aware of this, bet on her showing her skills even though no one could quite predict how. If she didn't, he'd simply claim disappointment, offering a simple explanation to cover his tracks. The fight itself was more a clash of amateurs than expert siege contestant, relying more on physical endurance than real combat prowess. They had been training, sure, but their skills were raw, their strikes clumsy, and so they battled. Not with the finesse of trained warriors, but with the awkwardness of students trying to make sense of their powers. At the beginning, neither side dared to go all in, knowing they were classmates and would still have to interact after the match. Their strikes were tentative, each trying to talk the other into surrendering. But as the fight wore on, their tempers flared, and things quickly escalated into full-blown blows. Li Qian, being bigger and stronger, had the upper hand, pushing Zhao Xiaoyu, though she wasn't short, step by step toward the edge of the ring. Though she wasn't as embarrassed as Wu Jin earlier, it was clear she was being overwhelmed. With her options running thin, it seemed unlikely for Zhao Xiaoyu to come out on top. Jiang Tianming, watching from the sidelines, stole a glance at Su Bei but held his tongue. After the incident with Wu Jin, he wasn't about to second-guess Su Bei's judgment until the referee made the call. Su Bei, however, was unbothered. He was confident Zhao Xiaoyu would win just as Wu Jin did, so there was no need for concern. As Zhao Xiaoyu was finally backed into a corner, Jiang Tianming suddenly felt a strange sense of deja vu. Wasn't this just like Wu Jin's situation earlier? Could there be a reversal in the making? Everyone else, noticing the same, grew tense with anticipation. And then, out of nowhere, Zhao Xiaoyu spoke, her voice steady. "You're definitely going to lose." Li Qian, taken aback, laughed it off. "What are you? Ha 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 ha!" As Li Qian's words hung in the air, his laughter took over, uncontrollably bubbling up, yet confusion still flickered in his eyes. The very moment of weakness had arrived, and Zhao Xiaoyu seized it, her strength throwing him from the ring. Victory was hers! It's laughter speech! Mo Xiaodian exclaimed, his eyes wide with awe. She timed her ability to perfection! The sudden turn of events left Mu Tiran speechless, his gaze shifting to Su Bei. "She really used her ability to win," he muttered in disbelief. Su Bei just smirked, keeping his thoughts to himself. Had Zhao Xiaoyu failed to use her power, he would have shared his insights. But now, with her success, he chose silence. The room buzzed with speculation. Could laughter speech be so powerful? If it lasted long enough, it could cause real damage, Mu Tiran thought, impressed by the hidden potential within Class F. Wu Mingbai shook his head. Not yet, it's short-lived. If it were longer, she would have used it earlier, he observed. The stage was now set for the final showdown, Lan Subing versus Jiang Tianming. As Jiang Tianming looked at her, the question hung in the air. Will you be able to use your ability when it's your turn? Maybe looking at them will help you speak, Jiang Tianming suggested, trying to come up with a reasonable solution. Lan Subing's eyes lit up. It's worth a try. With weapons banned on the ring, a photo seemed harmless enough. Jiang Tianming and Wu Mingbai quickly grabbed a 1-inch photo each from their dorms, knowing they were the ones Lan Subing trusted the most. Grateful, she hugged them both before nervously stepping onto the ring. As soon as she got on stage, she pulled out the photos, attempting to use word spirit to send her opponent flying off the ring. But as she stared at the cold, lifeless images, her lips refused to move. Despite her efforts, her throat was blocked, rendering her unable to speak. The opponent, a Class D student with a weak ability, initially thought the photos might be some kind of trick. But after waiting and seeing no action, he cautiously moved forward. Realizing her retreat, he smirked, thinking, "So she's just bluffing. I'll throw her off the ring, but maybe I should get her contact info first." "Maybe looking at them will help you speak," Jiang Tianming suggested, thinking it was the most reasonable idea he could come up with. Lan Subing's eyes lit up. "It's worth a try!" Weapons weren't allowed on the ring, but a photo should be fine. Jiang Tianming and Wu Mingbai hurried back to the dorm to each grab a 1-inch photo for her. They were the two people Lan Subing was most familiar with, so their photos were perfect. With the photos in hand, Lan Subing gratefully gave them each a hug before nervously heading up to the ring. As soon as she got on stage, she took out the 2 photos, trying to use word spirit to send her opponent off the ring immediately. But unfortunately, as she looked at the cold, lifeless photos, her lips felt glued together. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't open her mouth, and her throat felt blocked, making it impossible to make a sound. Her opponent was a student from Class D with an ability that wasn't very useful in combat. When he saw the blue-haired beauty across from him take out 2 photos as soon as she got on stage, he was startled, thinking it might be some kind of ability. But after waiting for a while without seeing her make a move, he cautiously stepped forward. Noticing his movement, Lan Subing quickly retreated. Her combat skills weren't strong, and if they actually fought, she could easily be thrown off the ring. As Wu Mingbai said, she was a pure mage. Seeing her back away, her opponent realized what was happening. He suddenly felt excited, thinking, "So she's just bluffing. I'll throw her off the ring, but maybe I should get her contact info first." With a swift movement, he surged forward, ready to strike. But Lan Subing, though unable to speak, wasn't paralyzed by fear. The moment she saw her adversary about to attack, she bolted without hesitation, not even considering a counterattack. Thanks to weeks of grueling training under their homeroom teacher, the students of Class F had perfected one skill: running. The boy chased her for what seemed like ages, but his stamina couldn't keep up, leaving him panting in exhaustion. "How are you so fast?" he wheezed, standing still, breathless. "Stop running. You can't win. Just step out of the ring." Lan Subing, now realizing she was faster, felt a new confidence rise within her. If she kept running, he couldn't catch her. She was going to outlast him. His words sounded like nonsense to her now, so she decided to speak her mind. "Why don't you?" She froze midway through her sentence, shocked to find she could speak again. Seizing the chance, she quickly corrected herself. "Why don't you step off the ring?" The boy froze, suddenly feeling his body moving against his will. Before he could understand what was happening, his legs carried him toward the stairs, out of the ring. "Wait, what's going on?" he shouted, barely able to believe it as he was tossed out of the ring. Left behind, Lan Subing stood in a daze. The crowd watched, stunned by the shocking turn of events. No one expected Lan Subing to break free from her usual shyness and use her power in such a moment. "Is this a straight man moment?" muttered Su Bei, watching the scene unfold. Lan Subing was still in a fog, walking off the stage and glancing at Jiang Tianming and the others, confused. "Did I win?" she asked. "You won," confirmed Jiang Tianming. Seeing her still not quite understanding, Wu Mingbai laughed, throwing an arm around her. "Not bad. You actually spoke up in front of everyone." Their bond felt like something out of a manga, the kind that forms between the main characters after countless chapters, a connection no one else could break. Except for Mo Xiaotian, who didn't catch the vibe. He rushed over, hugging them all. "Xiaolan, you're amazing. That word spirit ability is so strong. After this exam, you'll move up to Class A, right?" Lan Subing finally laughed, her mind clearing up. As she processed everything, she realized it wasn't that simple. Shaking her head in response to Mo Xiaotian's words, she admitted, "No, it's not that easy." Before she could respond, Jiang Tianming shook his head. "I don't think it'll help much. The homeroom teacher clearly wants to help you with your social anxiety. If he hasn't mentioned a psychologist specialized in abilities, it's probably because they can't cure you." That made sense. Mu Tiran remembered the first day when Meng Huai had forced Lan Subing to introduce herself. He frowned. "What if I ask the homeroom teacher?" "I've already finished my match today, so it's no trouble." "Thank you," Lan Subing said gratefully. After all, this wasn't part of the class monitor's duties, and Mutirin was only helping because they were friends. At that moment, the boy Lansubing had defeated walked over with a gloomy expression. "What kind of ability do you have? How did you end up in Class F?" He wasn't dumb. He knew that an ability to control someone wasn't simple. Being placed in Class F with such an ability seemed ridiculous. It's word spirit. I ended up in Class F because I have severe social anxiety and can't speak to use my ability. Seeing him approach, Lansubing carefully stepped back, quickly typing her response on her phone. Hearing this, the boy scratched his head, then smiled. Before she could say anything, Jiang Tianming quickly interrupted. "I don't think it would help. The homeroom teacher clearly wants you to face your social anxiety. If he hasn't suggested seeing a psychologist specialized in abilities, it's probably because they can't fix it." That made sense to Mutirin. He recalled the first day when Meng Huai forced Lansubing to introduce herself. Frowning, he offered, "Should I ask the homeroom teacher? I've already finished my match, so it's no trouble." "Thanks," Lansubing said, grateful for his offer. It wasn't part of the class monitor's duties, but Mutirin was helping because they were friends. Just then, the boy Lansubing had defeated walked over, looking gloomy. "What's your ability? How did you end up in Class F?" He wasn't dumb. He knew an ability like hers couldn't be that simple. Being placed in Class F with such an ability seemed like a joke. It's word spirit. "I ended up in Class F because I have severe social anxiety and can't speak to use my ability." Lansubing carefully stepped back and quickly typed out a response on her phone. Hearing this, the boy scratched his head and suddenly smiled. "So, if you can talk to me, does that mean you're interested in me?" Before he could finish, a mechanical female voice from the phone interrupted. "I realized I could beat you without even using my ability, and somehow that made me feel less anxious socially. Thanks for that!" The boy was speechless, his face covered as he fled, tears in his eyes. Lansubing turned, puzzled. Why is he crying? Did he lose that badly? Wu Mingbai, grinning, gave her a thumbs up. Exactly! Now it was Jiang Tianming's turn. Subi was curious. Would Jiang Tianming use his ability this time? He'd only used it once before, passively, during the first day's run, but if he summoned the dead, would people notice? Subi wondered if the spirits he called upon were somehow tied to him, maybe even those he'd killed. Wu Mingbai, knowing the darkness in human nature, whispered a warning. Be careful with your ability. Jiang Tianming stepped up to the stage, his eyes sharp and focused. His opponent, a Class C student, wielded the power of hair, a dangerous ability that allowed her to control her hair as a weapon long range, and up close, it was a deadly advantage. She'd clearly studied him, knowing nothing about his ability, but assuming it couldn't be anything special given his Class F status. Without hesitation, she taunted him, offering him the chance to forfeit. Her claim? That she could easily bind him with her hair and throw him off the stage before he even had a chance to move. Jiang Tianming, however, wasn't the type to back down. He quickly saw through the flaw in her words. If her hair was really that powerful, why waste time talking? A real threat would end it in an instant. The Class C girl faltered, realizing her bluff had been called. She awkwardly adjusted and lunged forward, determined to prove her strength. But Jiang Tianming knew better than to underestimate his opponent after all. Class F students didn't make it this far without their own kind of strength. She had only lied earlier to save time, but now, with her trick exposed, it was time to fight with sheer force. As Jiang Tianming saw her charging, he immediately backed off, ready to execute the same tactic. Lansubing had used running circles around the arena to wear her out. However, after only a few steps, he realized his plan wouldn't work. The Class C girl couldn't throw him off the stage with her hair, but she could stretch it an extra meter, control its hardness, and shape its movement. This extra reach made it impossible for Jiang Tianming to escape. In fact, he was now at risk of being trapped. The stage wasn't large enough for him to keep running away, and the strands of hair behind him gleamed like dark needles, aiming straight for his neck. If they touched him, the referee would instantly declare him the loser. So, he gritted his teeth and pivoted to shake off the hair. But the Class C girl expertly maneuvered it to follow his every move. This was a prime example of how the tournament showcased students training her control over her powers was impressive. But Jiang Tianming knew he could easily win if he used his ability. The problem, however, was that using it in front of so many people would expose him. He needed a subtler way to handle this. His eyes shifted to the edge of the stage, and suddenly, A plan formed in his mind. With the last ounce of his strength, he charged toward the edge. The Class C girl, almost on his tail, watched in frustration as he quickly pulled ahead with an unexpected burst of speed. She furrowed her brow, her mind racing, wondering how he was managing to keep up such a pace. But she remained calm, knowing his sprint couldn't last much longer. Sooner or later, she'd catch up. The urgency in her heart began to fade. Just as Jiang Tianming neared the stage's edge, he suddenly dropped low. If his pursuer wasn't careful, she might overshoot and tumble off the stage. But the Class C girl wasn't so easily tricked. Too many had fallen for the same move throughout the day. She wasn't about to make that mistake. However, as she tried to slow down, she felt a sudden tug at her clothes, like someone pulling her back. It was enough to tip the scales. Unable to counter the momentum from her sprint, she stumbled over Jiang Tianming's back and fell off the stage. He had won! The audience was left in stunned silence, mirroring the disbelief of Lan Subing's victory. He really won? In this chapter, the plot twists, as Jiang Tianming's move leaves everyone questioning the nature of his power. After a quick action, he is seen calmly watching a Class C girl fall from the stage, seemingly without lifting a finger. His composed demeanor makes it look like he knew exactly how things would unfold. When the girl finally stands and accuses him of using some hidden ability, Jiang Tianming's response is smooth and innocent. With a look of confusion, he claims that her fall was simply due to her own overcharge, leaving her unsure of what to think. Watching from the sidelines, his friends exchange knowing glances, amused by his acting skills. It's clear that Jiang Tianming has a way of making even his most subtle moves seem completely natural, making it impossible for anyone, except the girl herself, to catch on to his true tactics. She wasn't even sure someone had pulled her just a faint tug, maybe even her own misstep. No one had been in front. Could she have lost by mistake? Gritting her teeth, she stomped the ground and glared at Jiang Tianming. "You got lucky this time. Better pray we don't meet in the group battle." With a huff, she stormed off, leaving tension cracking like thunder. Jiang blinked, then casually shrugged. So, dinner? It was only 5 p.m., matches still grinding on like rusty gears. Wu Mingbai wasn't ready to leave. With a sharp nod, he pointed toward the stage. "Let's watch his match first." All eyes turned as Si Zhaohua stepped forward, uniform crisp, sleeves rolled with ritual calm. His team watched from below, only Baoju truly anxious, the others cold as stone. Su Bei squinted at the challenger, brow raised. "That short guy Class A too?" Mo Xiaotian nodded, eyes fixed on the unfolding clash. Mo Xiaotian's eyes sparkled as he playfully widened them, mimicking the laser eye ability. "It's like something straight out of the movies. So cool!" Zoos, 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 he gestured dramatically, clearly enjoying the moment. Su Bei turned his attention to the 3 students from Class A. "Do you know what power Si Zhaohua and the others have?" he asked. Mo Xiaotian thought for a moment. "Zhou Renji has a defensive power. He says no one can break through it, except Si Zhaohua. As for Baoju and Si Zhaohua, I haven't seen their powers in action, but I suspect Si Zhaohua's is offensive," he explained. Su Bei nodded and moved toward the center stage. "This will be perfect. Let's see Si Zhaohua's ability in action. Without it, he won't be able to handle a laser user." The others followed as they reached the stage. The short guy was serious, his hands and eyes glowing faintly. "All right, Si Zhaohua, show me what you've got." 2 lasers shot from his left eye and right hand, attacking from high and low. But to everyone's shock, Si Zhaohua's school uniform ripped open from the back, revealing 2 massive white wings. They crossed over each other, forming a protective shield, blocking the lasers effortlessly. The stage lit up with divine power, leaving everyone breathless. Even the ever-joking Wu Mingbai couldn't hold back his shock. Su Bei and the others stood frozen, eyes wide, overwhelmed by the overwhelming display. Lan Subing whispered what they were all thinking. This wasn't just a school duel. It was a war of another level. Su Bei, half smiling, muttered something about her breaking the 4th wall, but deep down he knew this was real power. The short boy's attack failed, and when Si Zhaohua revealed his undamaged form with wings unfurled, even defeat looked noble. Shaken yet respectful, the boy asked for one last glimpse of judgment, and Si Zhaohua, calm and composed, responded with a raised brow, as if deciding whether the world was ready to see it. "I may not be able to execute it," he said, his voice calm, The shorter boy mistook the meeting, thinking it was about energy limits, and urged him to try anyway. Si Zhaohua nodded once, unfolded his wings, and soared into the air with effortless grace. His face remained detached as his hand lifted to block out the sunlight. Then divine judgment. Shadows fell, the air trembled, debris spun wildly. Just before the strike landed, the referee's voice cut through. Si Zhaohua wins! Stop the skill! Only then did the short boy realize he hadn't meant he couldn't use it, but that it was too overwhelming to be allowed. Silently, he walked off the stage. Si Zhaohua bowed politely, glanced at the others, then returned to his team as a quiet cheer rose behind him. That was incredible, Si Zhao! You never disappoint! In this thrilling chapter, Si Zhaohua stuns everyone by effortlessly demolishing Class A, leaving Zhou Renji in awe. His praise takes a sharp turn as he suggests C should be in Class S, a comment that raises more questions than answers. Si Zhaohua, ever the composed figure, dismisses the idea, hinting that Class S is still a distant possibility. The news is a revelation to Su Bei and the others, making them wonder if there's more going on than meets the eye. As the group absorbs this information, Zhou Renji tries to steer the conversation into less flattering territory, throwing a snide remark about others never catching up. Sai, unfazed, walks away, his silence louder than any words. The group feels the sting of being ignored something more cutting than a confrontation. Jiang Tianming, troubled by the tension, suggests it's time for a break. They walked in silence. The weight of battle and secrets thicken the air. Su Bei didn't care what the others, though. This mind churned with gears of doubt. Si Zhaohua's ability was overwhelming. A flawless fusion of offense and defense. What if Class S hit even stronger monsters? Had he designed his own power too weakly? No, he needed intel, not self-doubt. Set the upper limit too low and he'd script himself into a corner. The quiet cracked when Mutirin clattered into the cafeteria, confused but cheerful, until he noticed the grim faces. Your match? He asked Jiang Tianming, who simply said, I won. That wasn't the issue. Mutiren, still clueless, blinked. Then why do you all look like someone rewrote your endings? Jiang Tianming looked away. The truth wasn't about victory or loss, it was about what they saw and what came next in the plot. We watched him fight. His power? Beyond belief. It's not just strong, it's overwhelmingly strong. He didn't even need to fully use his ability, and yet the pressure he put on everyone was unbearable. The sky darkened, the wind shifted, things no novice or veteran could pull off. Can anyone really stand up against him? When the truth hit that his ability was angel, Mutirin didn't flinch. Instead, he laughed, saying, Who cares? Famous abilities are always written about. We'll find his weakness and use it against him. Everyone froze for a moment. Could it really be that simple to defeat him by exploiting his weakness? It might just work. Jiang Tianming stood up, ready to head to the library, but Mutirin stopped him, urging him to finish his meal and rest. There's still time before the big battles, after all. Watching this unfold, Su Bei finally understood Mutirin's value. He might have seemed like the odd one out before, the less flashy member, but now it was clear. He was essential to the team's survival. Mutirin wasn't just a background extray, was the unshakable lock that kept the gears from flying apart when despair cracked the frame. Jiang Tianming and Wu Mingbai, two sides of the same sharp-edged coin calculating. Proud. Brilliant. But when one falls, the other spirals. Lan Subing, sweetly fragile, still trembling behind her voice, couldn't shoulder the group's weight not yet. Mo Xiaotian burned with eternal optimism, but his flames only warmed, not shielded. Only Mutirin stood like ink that wouldn't smudge, holding the script steady when the others blurred. Su Bei? Off panel when things got hot, but just when everyone started drifting, he threw down a line like a gear snap. Worried about the top threat already? You haven't even cleared Class B. Boom, just like that, the manga jolts back on track. He wasn't the hero they followed, he was the editor behind the curtain, kicking the plot back into motion. Despite knowing they'd make it to the final day, Su Bei couldn't help but notice the others didn't share his certainty. They were stressing over how to beat the top student, already doubting their chances. Wasn't that ridiculous? If not for him, the group might have realized they were simply momentarily distracted by a small setback. But since he was there, he figured he might as well nudge them back on track before things got worse. With that, he picked up his tray and left the cafeteria. As soon as he walked out, the group exchanged glances, and Jiang Tianming spoke first. Instead of reacting with anger to Subei's almost mocking words, he nodded seriously. It wasn't pleasant, but it's true. Lan Subing, fired up, clenched her fist. Let's work hard tomorrow, at least until we face Shizawa. She had her pride as the eldest daughter of her family. There was no way she would fall behind in the first 3 days. Mo Xiaoxin, barely affected, cheered with enthusiasm. After the exam, everyone joined Class A. Wu Mingbai swiftly covered his mouth, glaring at others who were starting to stare. "Shut up," he hissed. But Mu Tiren, unbothered, carried on without a care. Stretching out his long arms, he rounded up the crew with a booming laugh. "Ha ha ha, let's go. Class A might be tough, but we'll give it our best." Meanwhile, back at the dorm, Su Bei wasn't resting. He was scheming. Without wasting a moment, he darted off to the library, mind spinning. The others didn't worry about Shizawa yet, but he did because Su Bei wasn't here to play catch-up. He was here to stay ahead. Learning about Shizawa's ability wasn't curiosity, it was strategy. Class S wasn't formed yet, and that gave him room to maneuver. When Shizawa spoke earlier, Su Bei realized his offhand reply to Jiang Tianming wasn't just luck, it was foreshadowing. No rush. He didn't need to be in Class S, he just had to be able to. Whether he'd go depended on one thing, the protagonist's path. Where the lead went, he'd follow. Angel, the ability Shizahu awakened wasn't just rare, it was a professional-grade power, like programmer, blending battle and career potential. Combat, coding, both could be enhanced. Deep in a dusty tome on specialized powers, Su Bei found it. Angel. Rare, but not mythical. A pattern emerged. Every wielder rose to prominence, no deviations. Its evolution wasn't branching but ascending like faith, unwavering. One pair of wings, then two, then three no forks. No mutations, just pure sacred escalation. Just as Su Bei dives into the mysteries of the angel ability, he stumbles onto something even crazier ability, evolution. Wait, abilities can evolve? Eyes wide, curiosity blazing, Su Bei forgets all about Angel for a moment and grabs a stack of books like a kid in a candy store. Turns out, once your power hits a certain level, it can transform like Fireball, turning into Fire Element, or singing, mutating into full-blown sound. Not exactly secret knowledge, but still kind of epic. Evolution's just the power leveling up so hard it changes its name. Bored by the basics, Su Bei flips back to Angel, which is basically a divine Swiss army knife. Wings tougher than blades, feathers like razors, and a deadly special called Judgment. And the more wings, the more devastation. Legend says a 6-winged angel nuked a whole Nightmare Beast city into oblivion. Now one of those beasts go berserk whenever this ability shows up. Su Bei grinned, giving a cheeky whistle as he looked over the match order for the day. Looks like tomorrow's gonna be a breeze. The lineup had him questioning the arrangement. Why had the protagonist group been moved up front instead of the usual finale? Wasn't it all scripted by the author? His suspicions grew as he recalled the prior day's sequence, but something felt off today. Was the plot really shifting? His instincts screamed, yes, it's all planned. The early matches for Jiang Tianming's group weren't just random. It was a strategy to face stronger opponents and wake them up from their obsession with a single rival. Su Bei smirked, already piecing it together those early battles would prepare them, but for him, the real fight was tomorrow. The manga's constraints meant he wouldn't get much screen time anyway. His battle was against a weakling, not worth the page count. The rest of us will just be glossed over, Su Bei mused, fully aware that the narrative was carving out space for the big players. The plot wasn't perfect, but it was still a game he knew how to play. After glancing through the list, Su Bei raised an eyebrow and let out a carefree whistle. Looks like tomorrow will be an easy day of spectating. The next day, the match order was announced. Lan Subing, Wu Mingbai, Jiang Tianming, Mu Tiren, Mo Xiaotian, and Su Bei. Upon seeing this, Su Bei couldn't help but question, wasn't our match order deliberately set by the author? He'd been certain the day before that the order was planned to feature the core members last. But today's list had the protagonist group at the front, which made him doubt his theory. Could I have been wrong? But his manga awareness confirmed his suspicion. It was set by the author. Before Su Bei could ask more, his intuition kicked in. revealing that putting Jiang Tianming's group first was meant to challenge them and adjust their mindset. By noon, Subi EI had already noticed that Jiang Tianming's group had been too distracted by one opponent and hadn't focused on their own situation. After Subei's teasing, they'd likely snap back to reality, but they still had to face formidable opponents. Then it hit him. So tomorrow, the rest of us will probably just be glossed over, huh? With the manga's pacing and limited space, the first day would get the full coverage, but it seemed unlikely that the second day would delve into their battles. He wasn't disappointed, though. His fight tomorrow was against a weak opponent, so it wouldn't be that interesting anyway. Subi EI stared at the ceiling. Gears already spinning. No match today meant freedom. Time to play. Should he observe AI Baozhu and Zhou Renji to dissect their moves, or finally make contact with the elusive Zhao Xiaoyu and quiet Wu Jin? The latter duo had always been out of reach Zhao in her girl circle orbit, Wu Jin just there. But the midterms cracked that distance. Their recent displays gave Subi EI the perfect reason to step in without looking random. Why not both? Zhao would be watching Ai Baozhu anywhere perfect ambush. A quick info scan confirmed it. Everyone had morning matches except AI. Subei's eyes glinted with intent. At dawn, he cracked the door and there stood Feng Lan. Ah, right. She had a match too. Want to go together? He asked casually. They hadn't synced in a while. Different teams, different fates. She nodded, then asked, "You have a morning match too?" Subi EI smiled, vague and smooth. "Afternoon. Just going to check out Jiang Tianming's fight." Lie. He'd already ditched their invite. Today wasn't for Friendsit, was for Gears, Data, and Destiny. Feng Lan didn't press further, and they walked side by side toward the arena. Scanning the field, Subi EI noticed Wu Mingbai in the center, signaling that Lan Subing had completed her match. Though she looked pale, Lan Subing had surprisingly lowered her thick scarf, revealing her face. Subi EI raised an eyebrow, curious but quickly shifting focus. He'd learn everything in the manga tomorrow. Turning his attention back to his target, Zhao Xiaoyu, he saw she was first up for Zijiao's team that day, with Feng Lan second. This was why Subi EI had arrived. Watching teammates' matches wasn't Feng Lan's usual style. Noticing Subei's presence, Feng Lan was puzzled but said nothing. "Her performance is pretty interesting," Subi remarked nonchalantly, arms folded, showing no romantic interest, only a fascination with the match. For the first time, Feng Lan gave Zhao Xiaoyu a closer look, possibly trying to understand why Subi EI found her interesting. Zhao Xiaoyu was already in battle with a Class D opponent who wasn't strong enough to make an impact. Her strategy was the same as the day before, retreating while appearing to struggle, luring her opponent into overconfidence, only to reverse the tide of battle when it mattered. Subi EI, a seasoned fighter, couldn't detect her feigned weakness. As expected, her opponent collapsed in laughter and defeat. Zhao Xiaoyu's win was effortless. She knew her limits, but passing 2 days of exams with just basic Class F skills felt like a solid victory. If she performed well in team battles, moving up was within reach. Unlike the usual hierarchy, the academy judged students more than teachers. Zhao Xiaoyu didn't blame Meng Huai's training physical strength was practical for Class F, but deep down, she craved real growth. She couldn't let her awakening and lost years go to waste. Then, stepping off the arena, she froze. Subi EI was watching her. After nearly a month, she thought she understood who didn't belong in Class F. Subi EI, Feng Lan, Lan Subing, they were never meant to stay. Even Mu Tiren and Jiang Tianming seemed bound for higher things. Naturally, Zhao Xiaoyu wanted to be part of their circle, but she knew it was nearly impossible. Still, the fact that they, once unreachable, now came to see her left, her stunned. Zhao Xiaoyu narrowed her eyes. Subi EI standing there made no sense. She stepped closer, her voice edged with suspicion. "Subi, Feng Lan, why are you here?" Subi EI, ever the strategist, responded with a polite nod before cutting to the chase. "You did well in the match. Now do you know Ai Baozhu and Zhou Renji's abilities?" "Ah, that's the game," Zhao realized. She tilted her head. "Why not ask him?" she said, pointing at Feng Lan, the silent prophet who'd been part of Zijiao's crew from the start. Subi EI smirked. "You think he'd ask?" Zhao got it instantly. Feng Lan's gaze shifted, intrigued. "I could," but Subi EI shut it down fast. "No need. If Feng Lan made a move, it'd alert Zhao Hua. Worse, if asked who sent him, he'd answer without hesitation. No Subi needed stealth. Let the others know, sure, but not the main players. Fenglan wouldn't spread it. Zhao? She'd blurt eventually, but not before giving a clue. Watching them, Zhao chuckled. You two really get along. Then, with a strange glint in her eye, she added, but I still don't get why you'd come to me with this. Subei's smile hinted at something deeper. Even if you told me, your team would still win, wouldn't it? Zhao Xiaoyu, though determined to win, was keen to avoid letting too many from Class A overshadow her. She needed a good score to climb from Class F, but couldn't afford to ride on the coattails of others, especially if she wanted to secure a favorable evaluation from the teachers. Her solution? If the Class A students were targeted by other teams, it would clear the path for her to shine. However, for her plan to work, her team had to win, and Zhao Xiaoyu was confident she could handle it. She agreed with the promise, though not without a twist. She wasn't fool enough to hand out information freely, proposing a trade, details about the abilities of others for a peek into Subei's secrets. But Su Bei wasn't one to play the same game. With a calm demeanor, he countered, offering a tantalizing glimpse of his own abilities instead, promising that once Zhao Xiaoyu saw it, she'd want more. Intrigued, and slightly surprised, she paused, considering the cost of turning this deal in her favor. Zhao Xiaoyu narrowed her eyes, wondering if Subei's power was like Fenglan's sewn of those uncanny prophecy types. That kind of ability could change everything. If true, she'd have agreed without hesitation. Prophets were rare and priceless after all. But Su Bei never actually said what his power was, always playing it close to the vest. That's why she listed his ability as a bargaining chip out of all the powers. His was the real mystery. I'm in, she said, gaze sharp. But why show me your ability and not the others? Subi didn't flinch. Because right now, we're on the same team. Cold logic wrapped in warm principle. If he leaked info about the others, it would shatter their odds. Their team was already the underdog, barely holding on in a manga world where plot armor was everything. Sure, the protagonist usually wins, but that's no excuse to make the journey harder. Worse, if the author showed him breaking ranks, he'd be branded a traitor written off in a flash of ink. Once the exam ends and the story resets, the rules change. Until then, he keeps his cards close. Zhao Xiaoyu sighed, lips twitching into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You make me sound like the villain here. Why come to me if you're so righteous? Entrapment's illegal too. The words hung in the air, cutting through the tension between them. Zhao Xiaoyu, though not one to play the hero, was irked by Subei's detached stance, especially when he twisted the situation to make her seem the villain. I'm not righteous either, Subi shrugged, his expression unreadable. We're just following our own rules. His indifference left her feeling strangely calmer. After Fenglan's departure, Zhao Xiaoyu laid out what she knew about their mysterious teammate's power. Zhou Renji never outright named his ability, but those who fought him say they get trapped in a pitch-black space. They can't escape until he decides to release them, and not a single person has been able to land a blow on him. He sends people to another dimension? Subei's curiosity flickered, but his mind raced. Didn't you dig deeper into those who faced him? Zhao Xiaoyu, ever the strategist, had done her homework. She nodded, a touch of frustration in her voice. Of course. But those who were trapped just saw darkness. They didn't dare move, and the next thing they knew, Zhou Renji let them go. Darkness. Subei's mind spun with possibilities. If there was light, maybe they could learn more about what lay inside. But who controlled the light in such a place? The mystery grew. Looking ahead, the stage was set for a showdown, and Wu Mingbai would soon have to face the weight of a decision, fight for the plot, or shatter it. Wu Mingbai's power is Earth element, but can he really handle the situation? Why should we even worry about the main character? As long as he deals with Zhou Renji, the team battle is no big deal. Su Bei kept pressing. What about I Baozhu? I Baozhu has a domain ability called Elegant Domain. The reply came. Anyone inside must act with grace or they'll be expelled. Su Bei couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Isn't that too easy to counter? I mean, if being elegant is the key, what about elegant fighting? Even if they can't fight, neither can their opponents, they could just stall the battle. It's not that simple. In her domain, no fighting or cursing is allowed. That's considered inelegant. If anyone does, they're out. And right now, her domain covers the entire arena. It's a defensive power, ensuring no one fights while inside. Zhao Xiaoyu sighed. She's a lady, so being graceful is second nature. But us common folk, and that's the problem without knowing the rules. Commoners are easy targets for expulsion. Something felt off. Su Bei frowned, muttering to himself. What doesn't add up? Zhao Xiaoyu asked, confused. The issue was, 2 out of the 3 key members in Si Zhaohua's group had defensive power sand imbalance that didn't fit the manga's established rules. But Su Bei couldn't reveal the truth just yet. He shook his head, dismissing it. Nothing. My ability is fate gear, which lets me predict parts of the future. Zhao Xiaoyu's eyes glinted with understanding. So, that prediction you made to Jiang Tianming on the first day, it came from the school? Su Bei chuckled. It was a fun prediction, yes. In fact, since the manga's first update, Su Bei had noticed strange inconsistencies in his character's backstory. His ability worked by using gears to connect with others' fate, yet he'd somehow predicted vague things like the unluckiest person of the year. He'd long wondered how this could be possible. Eventually, he figured it out fates weren't exclusive to people. But this explanation wasn't easy to reveal. He needed a reason to justify it. Now, he saw a perfect chance to subtly plant a potential plot point. It might or might not become significant, but it would be interesting to see. Zhao Xiaoyu, intrigued by Su Bei's powers, was more than willing to let him predict her fate, despite his warnings about their unpredictability. The allure of glimpsing the future was too tempting for anyone. Su Bei, with nothing left to lose, quietly accepted the situation. He stayed behind, gathering intel, and witnessed the upcoming match between Zhou Renji and Si Zhaohua. The match was soon underway. Zhou Renji's move was simple but deadly. He unleashed his ability, opening his mouth wide, shrinking his opponent, and swallowing him whole. With an effortless flick, the opponent was spit out, disoriented but untouched. Next, Si Zhaohua took his turn. With wings spread, he effortlessly deflected attacks while sending his feathers flying like deadly projectiles. The opponent, unable to stand up against such force, forfeited the match. Watching the invincible duo, Su Bei couldn't help but murmur in awe. Dealing with these guys feels like a hellish trial. Feng Lan, what would you do if you were up against them? The question, half genuine admiration, half a test, seemed to spark something in Feng Lan. If Si Zhaohua doesn't use judgment, I might stand a chance. Su Bei was taken aback. He knew Feng Lan didn't speak lightly. Could it be his confidence came from that uncanny ability to predict moves, the one he showed just yesterday? But even with that skill, Su Bei doubted it would be enough to avoid ending up in Zhou's stomach. He realized his power wasn't just about seeing fact-hate could evolve, become a weapon and shield. But how do you fight with destiny itself? His match came right after lunch. The arena filled with thick white fog, blinding the field. His opponent struck first, using the mist to mask his movements. But Su Bei didn't flinch. Calm, focused, waiting. The opponent grew restless, thinking he had the upper hand. But the moment he crept closer, Su Bei caught him with a reverse grip, slammed him down, and pinned him effortlessly. As the fog faded, the crowd saw him toss the guy off stage like it was nothing. Day 2 victory secured. With the baseline secured, Su Bei waited for the manga update, hoping for a sign. Meanwhile, Ai Baoju's match stole the spotlight. With a graceful stomp, the stage turned Pinker's signature color glowing like a force field. Hair, eyes, fan, even her mental power radiated pink. She waved her feather fan and mocked her opponent with elegance. "Are you my opponent?" she sneered. The boy froze drowned in pink, confused, and rude. That was a mistake. Her domain didn't tolerate disrespect. A single impolite word, and he was launched off the stage. Su Bei watched silently, troubled. It wasn't just power, it was manners coded into combat. In her world, forgetting to reply, "I'm fine, thank you," might be fatal. He struck first. That night, the new match schedule dropped only 60 competitors left, and 3 rounds per day. Someone would get a bye, but of course, not him. Su Bei sighed as he saw his next opponent. Class A again. Bad luck? Maybe. Or maybe the school was using these matches to test the secrets he and Jiang Tianming were hiding. Just as he questioned the setup, a system ping echoed in his head an update alert for manga awareness. The moment it triggered, a wave of strange clarity rushed through his mind like mint on ice. Gasping, eyes shut tight, Bei clenched his fists. When he opened them again, everything in his head was sharp, clear, dangerous. Now this is interesting. When Bei opened his eyes, he immediately felt the shift's vision and hearing sharpened, allowing him to catch every slight movement in the room. It wasn't just the physical world he noticed, though. Something inside his mind had changed, too. A strange, gas-like substance swirled within him, hinting at a new mental power awakening. But it wasn't easy to control. Like squeezing tofu, it crumbled under his attempts, a sign of his inexperience. He realized it was a result of this newfound power suddenly appearing, not through his own effort. The challenge was clear. Mastering this mental force would take time. Despite the urgency, Bei didn't panic. Instead, he casually checked his phone for the latest manga update, knowing that tomorrow's match would surely be part of the new chapter. As he scrolled through, he saw the exam scene unfolding, where his group stood tall among the other students, exuding youthful energy. The author didn't hold back, giving every character their moment to shine in the first day's battles. Bei was up first, facing the green-haired classmate character as ridiculous in the manga as in real life. The green-haired classmate twisted his body like clay, loudly demanding Subei's surrender. In reality, such behavior could be intimidating, but Bei knew it was all part of the game. In the manga, Bei faces a wild, absurd scenario where his opponent is twisted into an outlandish form, and instead of fear, it triggers a sense of exaggerated fun. His remarks, "Is this your ability? Amazing," and "You can change into so many shapes," come across more like an owner praising a dog for its tricks, turning the whole scene into a playful, almost mockery of his opponent's efforts. Subei's intention wasn't to play the sadist, but to exhaust his opponent's mental energy. His over-the-top complaints later on make him sound like a master of deception, using his words to push his rival into showing off more skills. But when the final move happens, Bei seems almost bored, sending the opponent off the stage effortlessly. Marveling at his manga version, Bei notes how it gives him the image of a powerful figure looking like a hero who enjoys the show. Despite his intentions being entirely tactical, the manga frames it as if he's simply savoring the moment, adding to the spectacle of his strength and cunning. Bei couldn't help but sigh, "Isn't this defamation? I'm an honest person." But even the scene of his dramatic exit from the stage was captured his full body kick followed by a biting remark, dripping with mockery. The green-haired opponent, furious, knelt and howled at the sky. The moment was framed perfectly in the manga with no awkwardness in sight. Then came the sharp exchange with Jiang Tianming, where Bei cleverly repeated the green-haired guy's failed attempt at persuasion, making him rage even more. Bei casually dismissed the situation, innocently asking, "Didn't he just get up?" Flipping to the next page, the manga awareness notes humorously asked, "Do you really think you're an honest person? After all, what kind of honest person mocks a loser like this?" Bei, flustered, quickly turned the page. The final twist included a conversation between Fenglan and Bei, seamlessly fitting the characters, leaving readers to laugh at the antics of the green-haired guy acting tough one moment and weak the next. The scene felt more like teasing a pet than a real confrontation, and readers couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. In the heat of battle, the tension is thick. The arena is filled with unexpected twists and turns, especially as one competitor makes a jaw-dropping move, leaving everyone in awe. The crowd can barely keep up with the intense duels. One character stands out, not for his strength, but for his uncanny ability to mock others. It's all laughs, but the stakes are high. While some battles seem straightforward, like Mutiran's easy victory, the real drama unfolds when subtle moments catch the eye. A simple remark about a class monitor's power raises questions: is there more to this than meets the eye? Is something shifting in the balance of power? The audience watches in rapt silence, wondering if the smallest clues will unravel into something much bigger. Secrets hide within the pages, and it's clear that this world is far from simple. With each battle, the lines between fate and choice blur, and the question looms, who controls the story now? Bei felt that the class monitor's abilities might not be as simple as they seemed. However, with too few clues to go on, he didn't waste time dwelling on it and moved forward. Then came Wu Jin's storyline. As it unfolded, Su Bei couldn't help but focus more intently, knowing that Woo Jin had put in quite the effort to make this scene impactful. The chapter shifted to Woo Jin's match, showcasing him wearing large black-framed glasses that nearly concealed his entire face, with his hair partially hiding everything except for his mouth and chin. Woo Jin's social anxiety was so severe that it almost felt like a terminal illness, and the manga even added a dark purple hue to emphasize his gloom. Meanwhile, Su Bei, though often surrounded by a similar purple backdrop, had a mysterious vibe entirely different from Woo Jin's suffocating aura. Su Bei's attention was caught by the match, which raised questions among others who didn't understand why he was so invested. They all saw Woo Jin as the underdog, unlikely to win, but Su Bei, grinning like a sly fox, thought to himself, wouldn't it be more interesting if Woo Jin won instead? Despite the inevitable beating Woo Jin faced, stepping back with every strike, doubts began to rise, especially after Su Bei revealed he had placed all his points on Woo Jin's victory. His bet was met with disbelief, but viewers, with their more rational approach, knew that if the manga was showing this, it meant Su Bei had a plan. The question on everyone's mind was, how is Su Bei going to make Woo Jin win? And can someone below the stage help those on it? As they wondered about the true depth of Su Bei's power. If Woo Jin wins, wouldn't that be cheating? In the next moment, the manga zooms in on Su Bei's face, giving him a full panel close-up. In his hand, he twists a mysterious gear, etched with peculiar symbols that glow softly with a golden light. A faint, dark, golden aura emanates from him, subtly captivating everyone around, including the readers. His intense gaze, as if locking eyes with them through his deep purple eyes, hints at something beyond just the gear. Since I've placed my bet, then whether he wants to or not, he has to win. Ah, so cool! Su Bei's going crazy. What skill is that? OMG, so alpha! The comments flood in, but Su Bei remains unfazed, continuing to read. His next line cuts straight to the stage where Woo Jin, cornered by a fierce opponent, stumbles near the edge. Just as it seems like he's about to fall, he suddenly smirks, crouches, and shuts his mouth. His opponent, thinking he's out, steps down in confusion. The scene shifts quickly, showing Woo Jin's victorious stand and the stunned faces of everyone except Su Bei, who calmly checks his phone, noting his plus 30 points. It's clear he's already profited from this. In a tense moment, Su Bei holds a mysterious glowing gear in his hand, his fingers tracing its intricate patterns. The faint golden light surrounding him pulses as his piercing purple eyes seem to gaze directly into the readers. With a calm voice, he declares, "Since I've placed my bet, then whether he wants to or not, he has to win." The atmosphere crackles as the manga's characters react. Fangirls can't contain their excitement, calling him cool and alpha, likening him to a domineering CEO. Meanwhile, Su Bei remains unfazed, focused on the unfolding events. As the scene shifts to a fierce battle on stage, Woo Jin is pushed to the edge, seemingly on the verge of defeat. But in a stunning twist, Woo Jin tricks his opponent into stepping out of the ring, and Su Bei, with a knowing smirk, checks his phone to see plus 30 points. His bet is paid off, and the readers are left with a glimpse of his calm mastery over the chaotic world around him. The afternoon kicked off with Woo Mingbai's match, where the manga brilliantly balanced the intense action on stage with the chaotic betting frenzy below. As Woo Mingbai triumphed, a neighboring panel humorously showed a boy who had bet on the purple-haired girl kneeling in despair, which added a comedic touch to the scene. But that was nothing compared to Lan Subing's match, which was the real crowd puller. Before the fight even began, the comment section was flooded with concern. Can she use her word spirit? Despite the anxiety, Lan Subing's victory came as no surprise. Her sharp, witty remarks shattered her social anxiety, sending the barrage into fits of laughter. Finally, Jiang Tianming's match grabbed Su Bei's attention. He was keen to see how Jiang Tianming would use his ability, curious whether it had a stealth effect. The manga took the moment further, revealing Jiang Tianming's calm contemplation as he plotted his victory without exposing his power. The true twist came when a shadow, resembling a boss from a previous season, appeared behind Jiang Tianming, using its ability to manipulate objects to pull a girl off the stage, causing her to lose balance. Su Bei suddenly realized that this boss had control over objects, and if Jiang Tianming could harness such abilities, the more people he defeated, the more powers he would acquire. Such a dangerous ability could never be openly displayed. A reminder of how powerful and risky the protagonist's abilities truly were. In a world where secrets and powers are tangled, one truth stands out. A man may be innocent, but possessing a treasure makes him guilty in the eyes of others. Jiang Tianming, despite never having harmed anyone, is feared for the potential of his power. But Su Bei, he doesn't care about the potential threats Jiang Tianming might pose. After all, Jiang Tianming is the protagonist and doesn't need a side character like him worrying about his future. Instead, Su Bei sees this secret as a tool and opportunity to enhance his standing in the protagonist group without revealing too much. Watching the battles unfold, the spotlight shifts to Si Xiaohua. His overwhelming victory isn't just impressive. His angelic transformation marks a shift in his emotions, a detachment he didn't have before. It's a subtle change Su Bei only notices upon reflection. Was Si Xiaohua's power altering him? Or was there something more to this transformation than meets the eye? The manga twists its layers, leaving Su Bei and us questioning what's real. The group, feeling the weight of their loss, trudged to the cafeteria. But with Mu Tiren's calm words and Su Bei's sharp sarcasm, their spirits lifted. This sparked lively debates online, with some fans calling for a mom figure to join the group, while others admired Mu Tiren's calm strategy or laughed at Su Bei's classic zingers. Yet, some criticized Su Bei for being too harsh comments he easily ignored. The next day's matches brought tough opponents, proving Su Bei's prediction right. Despite their lower abilities, these enemies outsmarted them. But each fight pushed the group to grow stronger. Su Bei, however, wasn't interested in that growth. He preferred to sit back and let others deal with the struggle. After all, why work for power when you can watch from the sideline? The group, still shaken by the recent events, heads to the cafeteria, feeling a bit down. But with Mu Tiren's logical reassurance and Su Bei's unfiltered sarcasm, they managed to cheer up. This moment sparked plenty of buzz in the comments. We need a mom figure. Where's the mom? Mu Tiren's got it right. The enemy's tough, but they've got to have some weak spots. After seeing Si Xiaohua's ability, I don't see how the group can win. Classic Su Bei. Haha. Su Bei. Daydreaming much? Of course, there were some complaints about Su Bei's harshness, but he couldn't care less wasn't here to win popularity contests. The story shifts to the next day's matches, where, as Su Bei predicted, they face some formidable opponents. While their abilities aren't the strongest, their strategy is on point. Through these battles, the group powers up, and Su Bei, thinking like a true shonen protagonist, realizes that adversity is the key to growth, though he'd rather leave the hard work to others, content to be the lazy one who gets the benefits without the effort. Jiang Tianming, rather than letting his ability be exposed on its own, chooses to wield it proactively. He reveals just his object control ability, presenting it as his own without disclosing his other, more powerful soul ability. Su Bei, having read the manga's first season, knows that Zhang's hidden power is like a laser cannon, immensely potent. The scene shifts to Su Bei and Zhao Xiaoyu, where they converse, and Su Bei finds himself uneasy. He hadn't wanted such a scene included in the manga, as it undermines his mysterious persona. However, the audience reacts differently in the comments section. They speculate on Su Bei's intentions, whether he's gathering information or deceiving Zhao Xiaoyu and praise his loyalty, intrigued by his subtle moves. Surprisingly, the response is overwhelmingly positive. Su Bei scratches his head, taken aback by the unexpected praise. After some thought, he realized that his readers had already embraced his character fully, allowing them to fill in any gaps on their own. Even slight deviations from the norm wouldn't raise suspicion. This discovery was a stroke of genius for Su Bei. Knowing the depth of connection readers had with his persona, he felt free to take bolder actions going forward. The plot, now building toward its climax, was set for an epic showdown. Wu Mingbai's opponent was none other than Zhou Renji, and the tension was about to explode. Eager to see the outcome, Su Bei quickly accessed the forum. His excitement was palpable as the subtle hints he had laid down began to bear fruit. On his personal profile, he revisited an old post, surprised to find that it had garnered much more attention than he'd expected. He had thought it would go unnoticed, but it seems someone had unearthed this hidden gem long before the rest. The post, titled Prophecy Post, Hidden Dragons and Crouching Tigers in Class F, was already creating waves, with users praising his foresight. The timing of his predictions was uncanny, and he couldn't help but grin, knowing the story was playing out just as he'd envisioned. Rather than letting his ability be revealed on its own, Jiang Tianming decided it was better to take control and show it on his own terms, selectively unveiling it. So, he flaunted the boss's object-controlling power, claiming it as his own and naming it Object Control, keeping his other, much stronger soul ability under wraps. Having already read the manga's first season, Su-Bei knew Jiang Tianming's hidden power was like a destructive laser cannon. After their battles, the story shifted to Su-Bei, now in a conversation with Zhao Xiaoyu. Su-Bei couldn't help but frown. He didn't want the incident to be part of the manga. His mysterious image was important to him, and probing into other characters' abilities didn't seem to fit. But surprisingly, the comment section was full of praise. Fans wondered about his relationship with Zhao Xiaoyu, whether he was gathering information for the team, or if he was outsmarting everyone with his strategic moves. Comments poured in like, is Su-Bei really predicting, or is he deceiving Zhao Xiaoyu? And wow, Su-Bei has won me over. It seemed the reaction was better than he had expected. Su-Bei scratched his head, surprised by the overwhelming support. In the latest chapters of this thrilling manga saga, the plot reaches a breaking point. Su-Bei, once a genius manipulator, faces the wrath of the Academy's narrative enforcers, the script keepers, as he's accused of destabilizing the story. But here's the twist. Su-Bei uncovers the truth behind the ghost author, a fallen protagonist from a scrapped manga whose mission is to reset the world by erasing Su-Bei, the wrong character. In a heart-pounding showdown beneath the hidden library, Su-Bei battles through illusion-based loops, his powers pushed to the limit. His allies, like Lan Subing, awaken their ability, word spirit, shattering reality to protect him. Meanwhile, Feng Lan defies her destiny, and Wu Mingbai faces a heartbreaking choice: loyalty or betrayal. As the ghost author tries to rewrite the story, Su-Bei traps them in a gear of reversal, setting the stage for an unplanned rewrite of the manga world itself. With the ink resetting, Su-Bei's defiant words break through the panels. If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. The stakes couldn't be higher as the narrative itself is torn apart. Su-Bei is on the run. With the Academy accusing him of being the destabilizing force, the stakes are higher than ever. A chilling decree emerges. Su-Bei is to be erased from existence by the script keepers, enforcers of narrative law. But Su-Bei isn't backing down. In a world where the plot loops endlessly and enemies are scripted to kill him, he must fight not just for survival, but to rewrite reality itself. Alongside him, Lan Subing breaks her silence, rewriting her fate, while Feng Lan shatters her prophecy. Wu Mingbai faces a heartbreaking choice, torn between duty and freedom. As the ghost author, an erased character with the power to reset the world, closes in, Su-Bei creates the ultimate gear of reversal. In a final mind-bending clash beneath the Academy, Su-Bei speaks to the readers. If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. Will the story end, or will Su-Bei become the one who writes it? The battle for narrative control has only just begun. The tension in the air is palpable as Su-Bei faces the ultimate challenge, being erased by the narrative itself. The Academy's rules have turned against him, and now he's on the run from the script keepers, the enforcers of the plot. But Su-Bei's not going down without a fight. With the power of the mysterious gear in his hands, he begins rewriting reality itself, taking on the roles of fallen protagonists and bending the story to his will. Meanwhile, alliances shift, and characters like Lan Subing find their voices, rewriting their fates in defiance of the Academy's rigid laws. As the plot spirals out of control, Su-Bei pushes back against the very narrative that seeks to erase him, leading to a mind-bending battle beneath the Academy's hidden library. With the help of his allies and his newfound power, Su-Bei faces down the ghost author, the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. In an epic showdown, reality itself is torn apart and rewritten as Su-Bei declares, if the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. The world is in chaos, but Su-Bei is ready to take control. In the thrilling chapters 31 to 40 of Gears of Destiny, the plot reaches a crescendo. Su-Bei, now publicly accused of destabilizing the Academy, becomes a target of the script keepers, the enforcers of narrative law. As the Academy splits into factions, Su-Bei uncovers the true identity of the ghost author, a once celebrated protagonist erased from a failed story. With time looping and reality warping, Subei's allies land Subing, Feng Lan, and Wu Mingbai take pivotal stands, rewriting their fates as the final showdown looms. In an epic twist, Subei traps the ghost author in a gear of reversal, forcing a rewrite of the manga itself. In his final moments, Subei boldly declares, "If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot." This heart-stopping narrative bends the rules of storytelling, keeping readers on the edge of their seats. In the latest chapter, the story reaches a boiling point with Subei now publicly accused of destabilizing the academy. As he becomes hunted by powerful factions known as the Script Keepers, alliances, fracture, and chaos begins to spread. But the stakes are higher than ever as Subei uncovers the true villain, the Ghost Author, a discarded protagonist with a plan to erase the world and reset everything. In a world where reality bends and loops, Subei fights through illusions and time loops to confront the Ghost Author beneath the Academy's hidden library. Along the way, his allies gain new powers. Lan Subing awakens her word spirit, altering reality itself, while Feng Lan breaks her prophecy, defying fate. With one final twist, Subei uses the ultimate gear of reversal to rewrite the plot, speaking directly to the readers as the manga resets. If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. The battle is only beginning, and the world may never be the same again. The plot reaches a boiling point as Subei, now accused of destabilizing the academy, becomes the target of the narrative enforcers. These Script Keepers are tasked with erasing him to restore order. However, Subei uncovers the true nature of the Ghost Author, discarded protagonist from a failed manga timeline whose goal is to reset the world by eliminating Subei, the last wrong character. In a high-stakes showdown beneath the Hidden Academy Library, Subei faces an endless time loop battle, while Lan Subing's powers awaken, rewriting reality itself to protect him. As the tension escalates, Feng Lan defies her prophetic fate, and Wu Mingbai is torn between loyalty to the Academy and his growing bond with Subei. The final clash culminates in a dramatic moment where Subei traps the Ghost Author within a gear of reversal, rewriting the manga world and breaking free from the plot's grip. The ink resets, and Subei leaves a message for the readers. If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. The ultimate battle for control over the story's fate has just begun. In this intense showdown, Subei's final stand reveals his true power. Faced with the threat of being erased, he takes on the Ghost Author, a fallen protagonist from a discarded timeline. As the plot tries to trap him in endless loops, Subei outsmarts it, using gears that alter reality itself. Meanwhile, his allies, like Lan Subing, awaken their powers and rewrite their fates. Feng Lan breaks free from her destined prophecy, and Wu Mingbai, torn between loyalty and freedom, faces a tragic choice. In the end, Subei rewrites the narrative, trapping the Ghost Author in an unbreakable loop, leaving the manga's future uncertain. This isn't just a battle of abilities, it's a fight for control over the very story itself. Subei scrolled to the third post, expression unreadable. The thread compared his prediction ability to Feng Lan's, reigniting a long-standing debate. One could sense the digital tension as fans listed their theories, Subei predicting people weekly, Feng Lan foreseeing events monthly. Yet the mystery deepened. Subei's hidden powers still hadn't been fully revealed. While the fandom clashed in the comments, arguing and laughing, Subei stayed silent, watching. The spotlight was on him again, and whether he liked it or not, every secret he held was one panel closer to being exposed. Tired of the endless debates over who's the top prophet in the world of King of Superpowers? Yeah, we get it. But do you think Subei or Feng Lan care about that? After all, one's a master of prophecy, and the other's a genius with a mysterious ability that could change fate itself. They don't need the title to dominate. But hey, who says you can't ship them, right? The BEI Feng combo is absolutely unstoppable. A prophecy duo rewriting the world. Fans may argue all day long, but it doesn't change the fact that together, they're an unbreakable force, capable of reshaping destiny itself. So, what's Subei's ability really all about? Could it be that he doesn't just predict fate, but actually alters it? Well, it looks like it's time to find out. And with the world teetering on the brink of collapse, Subei is all in ready to face whatever the plot throws at him. The game's about to get real, and it's only just beginning. Wu Jin carefully crafted a plan to reduce his presence, throwing off his opponent and securing victory. But honestly, the plan felt rushed. He didn't go invisible, he just minimized his presence. Had his opponent been more diligent, they might have spotted him. Yet, when Wu Jin squatted, his opponent simply scanned the area without lowering their gaze, giving Wu Jin the win. I suspect Subi-I's powers were at play here, subtly shifting fate. It's as if Subi-I tweaked the narrative just enough to turn Wu Jin's probable defeat into a narrow victory. By the time evening came and Subi-I checked the page, the thread was already flooded with replies. OP makes so much sense! If Subei's ability is Gear of Destiny, it's not just about glimpsing fate, it's about reshaping it. The story takes a thrilling turn as Su-Bei, once the target of an academy conspiracy, accelerates his plans in a desperate battle against time and fate. With the appearance of the mysterious ghost author and the arrival of the script keepers who are determined to erase him from existence, Su-Bei becomes the hunted. As he confronts endless looping battles and uncovers hidden truths about scrapped characters, his allies evolve, breaking their own prophecies and rewiring their fates. The intensity builds as Lan Subing awakens her word spirit, altering reality to protect him, and Fanglan rejects her destined path. With everything collapsing, Su-Bei must face the ultimate confrontation, rewriting the world itself and speaking through the broken panels. If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. The fight against the narrative itself is on, and no one is safe from the shifting gears of destiny. In the face of an inevitable fate, Subei's journey has become a struggle for survival and identity. As the narrative turns against him, he's branded as a destabilizing force, hunted by powerful storykeepers. Yet, the truth about the ghost author, a discarded protagonist seeking to reset the world by erasing Su-Bei, sets the stage for an epic battle beneath the Academy's hidden library. With allies awakening new abilities, like Lan Subing's word spirit and Fenglan's defiance of prophecy, the clash intensifies. In a final, desperate act, Su-Bei traps the ghost author in a gear of reversal, rewriting the very plot itself, defying the limits of fate. The manga world, once set in stone, begins to fracture as Su-Bei, the reluctant hero, asserts his control over destiny. If the plot kills me, I'll kill the plot. Su-Bei wasn't discouraged by the doubt around his post. He knew it was speculative, but his last guess turned out right, and that carried weight. With his earlier post as proof, many were already starting to believe him. Sure enough, when he refreshed the page, he saw the flood of supportive comments, affirming his hunch. The debates unfolded, some skeptical, others convinced. With a subtle grin, Su-Bei closed the post, feeling the weight of his words. A voice echoed, praising his strategy as a success, and Su-Bei couldn't help but shake his head, wondering, was it really that many who believed? Su-Bei knew that as long as enough people talked about him, even the ones who tried to refute him would only help boost his visibility. The only thing he needed now was patience. Despite his pessimism, Su-Bei had not abandoned hope of performing well in the upcoming group battle. This was his chance to shine, and he was determined not to let it slip. For the time being, he kept up his practice. Instead of resting, Su-Bei spent the night on his bed, controlling his mental power. The book he read earlier was packed with useful content, so he managed to get some practice in. It wasn't too tiring, similar to meditation though. It did leave him mentally drained by morning. Unlike real sleep, which refreshed him, this practice left him feeling exhausted as if he hadn't slept at all. After a deep sigh, he got up to freshen up. Today was the day he'd face off against an opponent from Class A, and if things went as planned, he'd get the chance to show off his newly honed abilities. It all came down to how well he'd practiced last night. The previous day's competitions had already narrowed the field down, and only around 60 students remained. Today, the rules of the competition were going to be significantly different. As the story intensifies, Su-Bei finds himself caught in a relentless game where every move is scrutinized, and every misstep could be his undoing. Yet, instead of giving in, he decides to keep fighting, driven by the hope of proving himself. After hours of training his mental strength, Su-Bei enters a critical battle against a formidable Class A opponent, his new abilities put to the test. Despite the draining process, he's determined not to miss the opportunity to shine. With the stakes higher than ever, the competition's rules take a drastic turn, leaving Su-Bei with no choice but to adapt or fall behind. His journey is a constant battle against both his inner doubts and external forces as he navigates a world where even those who oppose him only serve to fuel his rise. The competition kicked off with random matchups, completely ignoring class distinctions and wrapped up in secrecy. Only after the monthly exams would the results be revealed, keeping the suspense alive for the betting and adding a touch of mystery. To ensure fairness and prevent any early leaks, students signed a supernatural contract promising to keep the competition details under wraps. The betting phase would conclude today, but no one, whether eliminated or still in the race, could leave the grounds until the final day, ensuring no one got a peek at the outcomes. Even though simply knocking an opponent out of the ring didn't guarantee victory, it still required confirmation from the referees. The battle took place across 10 massive stages, each one completely isolated from the outside world, offering no chance for anyone to peek in or out. Among the first to face off were Mutirin and Mujin. Wujin, with his face hidden behind his hair, revealed little emotion, while Mutirin, normally calm, seemed a bit anxious. Taking a deep breath, he confided in his friends, being a Class F student, making it this far is already a huge achievement. Even if I get eliminated, I haven't let my teacher down. True enough, most Class F students didn't even make it past the first round, and though they weren't part of the main group, they still gave it their all, often facing tough battles against Class D students. Their spirits shattered before the competition even began, and without any desire to win, success was always out of reach. But the class monitor, Mutirin, had come this far, defying expectations and showing the wisdom of Menkwai's judgment. Yet, it was clear that Mutirin wasn't finished yet. "I'm not ready to give up," he declared, looking around. "Does Class F have to lose to Class A? I don't know, but I want to try." Jiang Tianming, instead of offering empty encouragement, gave a grounded response. "Good luck, class monitor. None of us will give up." Mutirin wasn't just motivating himself, he was lighting a spark in others. At that moment, a small smile appeared on his face. Mo Xiaotian, usually quiet, nervously joined in. "I'll do my best, huh? Is it weird for me to say that here?" After all, he was from Class A, the very team they were aiming to beat. The room erupted in laughter. Despite the light-hearted atmosphere, Si Zhaohua and others were less optimistic. Zhou Renji, looking at Wu Jin, wasn't hopeful. He barely considered Wu Jin's second-day progress impressive, just lucky. "You might as well forfeit now," he scoffed. "Save us the trouble!" Before Wu Jin could respond, Zhao Xiaoyu interrupted. "Today's competition won't move to the next round until the whole round is done." In this gripping saga, the tension mounts as each character faces their destiny. Zhou Renji throws a snide remark. "So what? You're all going to lose anyway." But Zhao Xiaoyu isn't so quick to let it slide. A smile is all she offers, knowing that speaking up for others is just another way to secure her own future. Wu Jin, ever the silent observer, barely makes a mark, yet his quiet presence is enough to turn heads when the stakes are high. Amidst the rising drama, laughter erupts from Jiang Tianming's group, sparking a sharp retort from Zhou Renji. "What's so funny? Do they think they'll rest after today?" Ai Baozhu, sharing the disdain, throws in her own jab. "Maybe they still think they can beat us?" The mood shifts when Si Zhaohua, ever the strategist, warns them to keep an eye on Su Bei, who's quietly watching from the sideline. It's not about trust. It's about survival in a world where every action can flip the script. As they gear up for the inevitable, alliances shift and the true game begins. Si Zhaohua, proud of his position as the top student in Class A, had never paid much attention to the abilities of others. It wasn't until now that he thought to ask about them. Feng Lan, who was always trustworthy in his judgment, had no doubt that his friends were not just ordinary people. When Zhaohua asked, Feng Lan responded, "I don't know, but he likely has some kind of prophecy ability." This revelation caught everyone off guard, especially Ai Baozhu and Zhou Renji, who hadn't expected anyone from Class F to possess such power. The more they thought about it, the more they began to wonder whether Feng Lan had chosen to be in Class F because of Su Bei's abilities. But when Ai Baozhu asked, Feng Lan hesitated before shaking his head. "I don't know," he said simply, and that was all. His reluctance to elaborate left the others to stew in their curiosity, pondering the mystery of it all. He could only sigh and leave the playground, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Ai Baozhu stood there, stunned. "What? How did he win? Wang Lei's ability is 10,000 arrows. The moment they stepped on stage, the referee should have declared him the winner. How could a student from Class F have possibly pulled off a win? Zhou Renji glared at the defeated student, his expression dark with anger. What a disgrace to Class A. If I were the teacher, I'd demote him to Class B after this monthly exam. Eyebrows Zhu furrowed her brow. That's not necessary. She knew Zhou Renji all too well. If left unchecked, he would likely start bullying the student after the exam, even if he couldn't get him expelled. Ai Baoju didn't particularly like Zhou Renji, but their families were in collaboration, and he had been kind to her in Shijiahua, which she reluctantly accepted. Yet, there was always that uneasy feeling. Class A students were proud of their abilities, unlike her previous circle of aristocratic peers. Ai Baoju was concerned that if Zhou Renji left, it would leave her and Shijiahua too isolated. But if Zhou Renji started bullying others, Ai Baoju knew she'd have no choice but to distance herself. She considered herself a good person. After all, Ai Baoju couldn't believe her eyes. What? How did he win? Wang Lei's skill is 10,000 arrows. As soon as they stepped onto the stage, the referee should have declared him the winner. How did that Class F student manage to pull off a victory? Zhou Renji shot a dark glare at the defeated student. What a disgrace to Class A. If I were the teacher, I'd drop him to Class B after this exam. Ai Baoju frowned at his words. She could sense the seriousness in Zhou Renji's tone after knowing him for a month. If left unchecked, he'd probably start bullying that student after the exam. Honestly, Ai Baoju wasn't fond of Zhou Renji, but their families were working together, and he was always kind to her and Shijiahua. It was hard to ignore that, though she would distance herself if Zhou Renji began bullying others. The last thing she wanted was to seem isolated, but she wouldn't stand for cruelty either. She prided herself on being a good person. She may not have stopped the bullying at her old aristocratic academy, but she stood firm in her principle of never participating or letting anyone around her get involved in it. This alone earned her praise for her kindness. Of course, I was just joking. Zhou Renji quickly responded with an awkward smile, but his true thoughts remained a mystery. Unaware of their exchange, Shijiahua suddenly spoke up. That Class F student probably won because he's likely a melee-type ability user. Wang Lei can't do much when someone gets close, so that worked against him. Ai Baoju instantly grasped this explanation and nodded. I thought his win was just luck. Any other Class A student wouldn't have let him win. Anyway, there are 2 more rounds today. I don't believe he can last until tomorrow, Zhou Renji confidently declared. And besides him, I doubt any other Class F student could win. Just as he finished speaking, the result of Wu Jin's match came through. Wu Jin's opponent from Class C appeared first, showing that Wu Jin had won. However, Wu Jin was holding his arm, bent over in pain, while his opponent also seemed injured. Zhou Renji had no words to say. He never thought his words would be challenged so soon, especially by someone on his own team. How did you win? He asked, shock written all over his face. It was one thing for someone like Mu Tiran to win with his height, strength, and endless energy. But Wu Jin? Honestly, Zhou Renji had barely expected him to survive the first 2 days, let alone beat a Class C student. Sure, Class C wasn't top tier, but they were leagues ahead of Class F. So, how had Wu Jin managed this feat? Yet, Wu Jin just shook his head in silence, knowing better than to answer, bound by a contract. After he left the scene, medics arrived and whisked both him and his opponent away. Meanwhile, Jiang Tianming and his team noticed Wu Jin's victory but weren't too surprised. From the very beginning, it was clear Wu Jin was clever. While his chances were slim, they were never zero. With the second round about to begin, Subi Ei wasn't interested in listening to anyone's speeches. He headed straight for the arena, where, once inside, the world outside the 30x 30-meter platform turned to white mist. Subei's journey is far from over, but things are heating up. As he faces a fierce new opponent, a fiery girl with red hair, the tension is palpable. Qi Wang, confident and unshaken, lays out her superiority, but Subi Ei isn't rattled. Instead, he plays along, recognizing the power of overconfidence. He's already setting herself up for a fall. As their battle looms, Subi Ei is ready to turn her arrogance into an advantage. She hints at revealing her powers, but Subi Ei, with a smirk, doesn't need Ei. This plan is already in motion. This encounter Just another page in Subei's ongoing rewrite of the narrative. He never thought his words would be challenged so soon, especially by someone on his own team. "How did you win?" he asked, shock written all over his face. It was one thing for someone like Mutirin to win, with his height, strength, and endless energy. But Wu Jin? Honestly, Zhou Renji had barely expected him to survive the first 2 days, let alone beat a Class C student. Sure, Class C wasn't top tier, but they were leagues ahead of Class F. So, how had Wu Jin managed this feat? Yet, Wu Jin just shook his head in silence, knowing better than to answer, bound by a contract. After he left the scene, medics arrived and whisked both him and his opponent away. Meanwhile, Jiang Tianming and his team noticed Wu Jin's victory but weren't too surprised. From the very beginning, it was clear Wu Jin was clever. While his chances were slim, they were never zero. With the second round about to begin, Subei wasn't interested in listening to anyone's speeches. He headed straight for the arena, where, once inside, the world outside the 30x 30-meter platform turned to white mist. Subei felt a rush of heat behind him. He glanced over his shoulder mid-run, eyes locking onto the Phoenix as it opened its beak, forming a fireball the size of a fist. Startled, Subei had heard of the fireball technique before, but seeing it in action was a different story. Judging by Qi Huang's calm expression, it wasn't just a one-off move. His heart raced. That fireball couldn't hit him. There was no time to waste, he had to outrun it. His only hope was to get close to Qi Huang, where the Phoenix might hesitate to fire, fearing it would harm her. But Qi Huang wasn't naive. As soon as she saw his plan, she darted away, fully aware that her Phoenix, though powerful, lacked precision at this stage. Subei couldn't outrun the fireball. It was a race against time and the heat behind him. With a sigh, he picked up speed, his mind spinning for a new strategy. It was time to outsmart the flames. In the midst of chaos, Subei taps into his newfound mental abilities, sensing the fireball behind him growing larger. As it hurtles towards him, he leaps backward, narrowly dodging its deadly reach. The Phoenix, missing its mark, struggles to regain its attack, giving Subei the opportunity to break away, running in the opposite direction. A voice echoes through the arena, filled with anger and urgency. "You might have dodged once, but not twice. Next time, we'll be ready, and you'll be finished. Surrender now, or face the consequences." But Subei, resolute as ever, ignores the threat. His mind races for a solution. His mental power is his only hope against this fiery menace, but the abilities he possesses feel insufficient. He can sense the arena, move objects, and create sensations, but none of this seems useful in the heat of battle. Desperation builds as he knows the next encounter won't be as easy to escape. Subei's eyes suddenly spark with determination as he shifts his path and charges toward Qi Huang. Surprised, Qi Huang braces herself, thinking she's prepared for the attack. She's confident the fireball won't harm her, only the Phoenix's heat. With Subei still unable to defeat her, all she needs is a brief entanglement and the Phoenix will finish the job. She's sure she's got him cornered, planning to trap him just before the bird arrives. But Subei has a different plan, and with swift precision, he reveals his ace. "You've lost. I've placed a weapon at your vital spot." Qi Huang instinctively feels something cold against her neck, a sudden realization dawning on her. As she turns her head in panic, her back is fully exposed. Seizing the opportunity, Subei strikes with a calculated chop to the back of her neck. Qi Huang stumbles, overwhelmed by darkness, and collapses. As she loses consciousness, the Phoenix, so close to ending Subei, vanishes into the ether. Subei ignored the burning pain on his back and smirked. "I won, right?" The referee confirmed his victory and left without another word, leaving both fighters collapsed on the stage. Glancing at the unconscious girl, Subei hesitated, then lifted her over his shoulder, only to stop mid-step. This wasn't his style. Carrying someone out like that felt too out of character, too cliche. He set her down gently, pondering the best way to maintain his mysterious allure. A princess carry? Too soft. Walk out alone? Now that had impact. He raised an eyebrow, left her lying there, and stepped toward the door, calculating every move for maximum dramatic effect. After all, missing the next key event just to play the hero? Not worth the screen time. Subei stepped out of the ring, his face unreadable, leaving everyone on edge. The crowd had expected a quick victory, but time had dragged on longer than anticipated. Tiran, caught off guard, wondered why it was taking so long for Subi to finish. With his reputation and abilities, the fight should have been over in a blink. His opponent, Chi Huang, was no slouch, but they both had high expectations for a swift conclusion. And yet, as the seconds ticked away, Mo Xiaoqian and others had already wrapped up their matches, while Subei's was still ongoing. When he finally emerged, the silence spoke volumes. His expression, however, was blank nothing to reveal whether he won or lost. The moment was tense, and everyone feared the worst. But Jiang Tianming broke the silence, asking, Subi, are you okay? Subi remained silent, his face a mask of indifference, leaving everyone to wonder what had truly happened inside the ring. Then, in an unexpected twist, Wu Mingbai stepped forward, his voice cutting through the murmurs, You actually won, didn't you? Wu Mingbai, a trickster at heart, quickly pieced together the truth. While he had initially believed that Subi might have lost, something didn't sit right. Seeing Subi accept everyone's condolences so quietly sparked a realization. If Subi had truly lost, he wouldn't have been so calm, so resigned. There was something off about it. Sure enough, when he asked, Subi flashed an innocent grin. When did I say I lost? Everyone froze, the atmosphere awkward, as the group scattered, unwilling to entertain Subei's mischievousness any longer. But not Mo Xiaoqian, who, bubbling with excitement, cheered, You won, brother Bei! I knew it! His curiosity got the better of him as he asked, So where's Chi Huang? Your opponent? Why didn't she come out? Subi casually shrugged. She fainted. Probably taken by a teacher by now, I guess. Lan Subing, a bit skeptical, adjusted her scarf and asked, Then why didn't you bring her out? Subi paused, his gaze drifting, knowing he couldn't answer without risking inconsistencies with the story. After a brief hesitation, he answered, The referee didn't bring her out either. The narrative began to shift, and Subei's story was far from over. Subi, the mastermind of the situation, coolly replies, The referee didn't take her out, so I didn't either blame the referee. His logic is flawless, and he couldn't help but feel smug about his cleverness. The others, however, were left speechless. If it were anyone else, they would have dragged Chi Huang off the stage by now. But Subi was different. He wasn't the kind of guy who did things the usual way. As the competition continued, Subi stretched casually, telling his friend to find a good restaurant for a celebratory lunch. His comments sparked curiosity, but before anyone could question further, a loud voice mocked from across the room. Subi remained unfazed, choosing instead to focus on his phone. Moments later, his friend, intrigued, asked what he was looking at. Subi smirked and showed him the screen. His friend's jaw dropped when he saw the points, 1260. As an A-class student, he was proud of his 250 points, but this was on another level. It turned out that Subei's success was only the tip of the iceberg. Zhao Xiaoyu, overheard and curious, moved closer, despite risking Zhou Renji's wrath. 1,260 points? Did you get that through betting? She asked, piecing things together quickly. As an F-class student, she knew there weren't many chances to earn points legitimately. So Subei's sudden windfall must have come from betting. Subi nodded. I couldn't have done it without you. In fact, not just Zhao Xiaoyu, but Wu Jin, Mu Tiran, and even Subi himself had played crucial roles. After the eliminations in the past 2 days, interest in betting surged, and most bettors knew nothing about the contestants' true abilities, relying instead on their class rank. Naturally, bets piled up on students from higher-ranked classes. The larger the difference in class rank, the bigger the betting gap. Wu Jin's match against class, Zhao Xiaoyu's against B class, and Mu Tiran and Subei's battles against A class all helped Subi rack up a massive point total. You bet on me to win? Zhao Xiaoyu asked, surprised, her face betraying mixed emotions. Don't you think you could win? Subi shot back. Zhao Xiaoyu paused, shaking her head. Of course, I believe I can win, I just didn't think anyone else would believe it. As an F-class student, she hadn't expected anyone to think she could compete with students from other classes. But seeing so many of her classmates push this far, she no longer saw F-class as inferior. The class was holding its ground, both in numbers and proportion. At that moment, Mo Xiaotian piped up with a proud grin. Brother BEI is amazing. He won every bet. Then, with a sly grin, he added, Brother, how about you let me in on it next time? I totally forgot to bet this time. Su BEI couldn't help but laugh. You expect me to remind you to mooch off my points? Mo Xiaotian scratched his head, grinning sheepishly. What's missed is missed. Brother, who did you bet on this round? Su BEI gestured toward Zhao Xiaoyu and Mu Tiren with his eyes. Smart people have already started placing their bets. He'd already hinted that everyone in their team would win, so the clever ones knew where to place their money. Wow, wait for me. Mo Xiaotian shouted, rushing off to place his bets. Si Zhaohua was the first to step out, followed closely by Ai Baozhu. His opponent was from class, so it was no surprise that Si Zhaohua likely won without even breaking a sweat. How did Su BEI know this? Simple. Si Zhaohua hung around after Ai Baozhu finished, clearly eager to see how the others, including Jiang Tianming, would fare. He wasn't his usual aloof self. He seemed genuinely invested in the outcome, suggesting his powers weren't clouding his judgment. Then, Mu Tiren suddenly called out, spotting Lan Subing walking out with her opponent, a clear sign of victory. Lan Subing's eyes were full of smiles, and without hesitation, she confirmed, I won. Awesome! You're the first one out. Mu Tiren cheered, but then asked carefully, how did you use your ability? There were rules against asking specifics, but Mu Tiren managed to phrase it just right. Lan Subing grinned and answered, just like the first day. It was clear now that her opponent, a B-class melee user, couldn't keep up with her, giving her the space to fully unleash her abilities. As expected, everyone but Jiang Tianming had finished their matches and made their exit. In this round, just as Su BEI predicted, everyone secured their victories. But Jiang Tianming's match was still ongoing. His opponent was an A-class student, so winning wouldn't be as simple as it was for the others. Su BEI turned to Mo Xiaoxian, asking, do you know who Jiang Tianming's opponent is? What kind of ability do they have? Mo Xiaotian shrugged, replying, I don't know. Li Shu never uses abilities around us, even during missions. Unlike other students, A-class members could take on simple tasks starting in the second week of school, though these were often low-risk, minimal reward missions. Wu Mingbai pressed further. What about his previous opponents? Did they reveal anything after their matches? Mo Xiaoxian replied, I didn't really pay attention. Before he could continue, Zhao Xiaoyu, who had been listening, spoke up. I asked around. His previous opponents only said that Li Shu was extremely powerful and gave up without a fight. Since the previous day's matches, Zhao Xiaoyu had been gathering intel on A-class students, knowing her abilities had limitations and that understanding her opponents was key. Su BEI raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Did they say what exactly made him so powerful? Zhao Xiaoyu hesitated before answering. They just said his presence was overwhelming. The situation was downright bizarre. It seemed like everyone was utterly convinced that they couldn't win, so they just gave up without a fight. Zhao Xiaoyu, like the rest of them, was confused by the whole thing, wearing the same perplexed expression. Lan Subing quietly speculated that it might have been psychological suggestion at play. Maybe their opponent's ability made them believe he was unbeatable, causing them to surrender without ever trying. But that didn't quite add up. Su BEI pointed out that if that were true, the match would have ended by now. Either their opponent would have given in to the suggestion, or they would have fought back, defeating him in the process. So, the prolonged battle didn't make sense. Just as Su BEI lowered his hand, Jiang Tianming appeared from the ring, carrying a boy who looked frail and almost transparent, curled up in his arm. The boy's face was twisted with discomfort, even in his sleep. Mu Tiren asked what had happened, and Jiang Tianming replied that the boy had drained his mental energy, leaving him weak. He was taking him to the infirmary and told the others to go ahead and eat. With the first round over, it was time for lunch, but when they entered the cafeteria, they all quickly stepped back out, confused. Something was definitely off. Mu Tiren scratched his head in confusion. Why is everyone staring at us? He asked. It wasn't an exaggeration when they walked into the cafeteria. It felt like the entire room shifted its focus to them. There was no hostility, but the attention was enough to make them all instinctively want to step back. It's because we won, Wu Mingbai quickly figured out, flashing a bright but defensive smile. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, but he wasn't about to show weakness. After the intense eliminations, only 36 students remained. A class had 10, B class 12, class and D class 1 each. and F class had a surprising 7. The small A class wasn't weak, but many were taken out by internal strife and the main group's dominance. However, F class stood out. 7 of their students had made it this far, a miracle by all measures. Who would have thought F class would emerge with so many winners? It made sense. People would be curious. Mo Xiaoqian, genuinely excited, added, "Wow, you guys are like campus celebrities now. That's awesome. I wish I was in F class too." Wu Mingbai, rolling his eyes, pressed Mo Xiaoqian down. "Enough already. Can't you at least notice the atmosphere?" In the cafeteria, tension filled the air as everyone's eyes seemed to pierce through her. Lan Subing, barely managing to keep her composure behind Mutirin, felt the overwhelming weight of their stares. Her voice barely above a whisper, she asked, "Can I skip lunch?" The idea of facing the crowd was more than she could bear, and Wu Mingbai, understanding her struggle, gently offered, "You can go back. I'll bring it to you." But before he could finish, Su Bei stepped in, his words cutting through the tension. "You should stay. Get used to it." The words were like a reality check. Wu Mingbai was taken aback, but Su Bei's logic was clear during team battles. There would be no avoiding the pressure of the spotlight. It would be the ultimate test for Lan Subing's strength, not just physically, but mentally. Could she hold her ground? Her stiffened posture showed determination. She nodded, ready to face this challenge, knowing that this moment might be her chance to change her fate. Together, they walked back into the storm of stairs, each step a reminder of the battle she was preparing to fight. Although feeling a bit uneasy, Lan Subing didn't stay hidden behind Mutirin for long. With a stiff demeanor, she followed along, using her scarf to conceal part of her face. Fortunately, the other students were curious, but none took the bait to start a conversation, allowing the group to eat in peace. Soon, Jiang Tianming messaged that he was on his way, and everyone exchanged glances, though no one felt the need to remind him what would happen when he arrived. As soon as he entered, the whole cafeteria's attention turned to him. He froze, and the sound of a camera clicked, snapping him back to reality. Su Bei, slightly annoyed, muttered about forgetting to mute the sound. Jiang Tianming, fuming, started toward her, but Wu Mingbai quickly intervened, asking for a copy of the photo. Lan Subing, shedding her social anxiety, also requested one. Su Bei, acting magnanimous, sent them both a copy, then offered the phone to Jiang Tianming. "Go ahead, delete it." Jiang Tianming, knowing the photo was already backed up, rolled his eyes and refused, warning, "Don't let me catch any embarrassing moments of yours." Su Bei wasn't fazed, confident in his role as the manga's true king. As their meal neared its end, a red-haired girl suddenly entered the unmistakable Qi Huang. Wu Mingbai, a trickster at heart, quickly pieced together the truth. While he had initially believed that Su Bei might have lost, something didn't sit right. Seeing Su Bei accept everyone's condolences so quietly sparked a realization. If Su Bei had truly lost, he wouldn't have been so calm, so resigned. There was something off about it. Sure enough, when he asked, Su Bei flashed an innocent grin. "When did I say I lost?" Everyone froze, the atmosphere awkward, as the group scattered, unwilling to entertain Su Bei's mischievousness any longer. But not Mo Xiaoqian, who, bubbling with excitement, cheered, "You won, brother Bei! I knew it!" His curiosity got the better of him as he asked, "So where's Qi Huang? Your opponent? Why didn't she come out?" Su Bei casually shrugged. "She fainted. Probably taken by a teacher by now, I guess." Lan Subing, a bit skeptical, adjusted her scarf and asked, "Then why didn't you bring her out?" Su Bei paused, his gaze drifting, knowing he couldn't answer without risking inconsistencies with the story. After a brief hesitation, he answered, "The referee didn't bring her out either." The narrative began to shift, and Su Bei's story was far from over. Her words were sharp, her presence commanding, and her confidence unwavering. As he stroked his chin, a thought crossed his mind. Isn't she like a female version of that character? At the mention of this, the excitement of the moment slipped away, and a chill crept over everyone as they began to consider the comparison. After a tense pause, Jiang Tianming's face morphed into one of pure disbelief. "No way, right?"